Welcome, brave souls, to a journey through the shadowed corners of Northern California, where history bleeds into legend, and the line between the living and the dead grows frighteningly thin. From abandoned hospitals to haunted theaters, forgotten cemeteries to eerie roadside inns, these 25 locations are infamous not just for their chilling history, but for the experiences of those who dared to wander too close. Prepare yourself for stories of restless spirits, unexplained disappearances, shadowy figures, and ghostly whispers that linger long after you leave. Remember, these tales are not for the faint of heart. The Queen Mary in Long Beach is more than just a historic ocean liner. It is a vessel where the past never truly sails away. Since its retirement from active service, the ship has stood as a floating museum and hotel, drawing thousands of visitors eager to experience its grandeur. Yet, behind the polished decks and elegant dining rooms, a darker history lingers, one that manifests in ways both subtle and terrifying. Guests and crew alike have reported experiences that suggest the Queen Mary is haunted by spirits who never left its decks. Many of the earliest reports come from crew members who worked late shifts or overnight tours. In the dimly lit corridors, shadows appear where no one stands, moving with an almost human grace. Footsteps echo across metal floors, sometimes following the workers, other times approaching from empty hallways. The sounds are often accompanied by the sudden flicker of lights, creating a disorienting, almost hallucinatory effect. Some crew claim they have seen passengers in 1930s, attire women in flowing dresses, and men in formal suits wandering the hallways or peering out of portholes, only to vanish moments later. The engine room is perhaps the most notorious area aboard the Queen Mary, once a place of immense labor and constant noise. It is now silent except for the occasional hum of machinery. Yet, visitors report hearing the clanging of tools, the rhythmic pounding of unseen hammers, and voices shouting orders in the distance. On some nights, the temperature drops inexplicably, and the air grows thick, making breathing feel heavier. Crew members often avoid the room alone after dark, claiming that the sense of being watched is overwhelming. Some have even experienced being gently touched by unseen hands, brushes along their clothing that send shivers down the spine. The pool area, once a lively space for relaxation, now carries a sinister reputation. Guests have recounted the sensation of cold water splashing against their feet, though the pool itself remains still and empty. Phantom voices, indistinct yet unmistakably human, echo across the deck, sometimes joined by the soft laughter of children who were once passengers aboard the ship. Some visitors report hearing splashing and shouts, only to turn and find the area deserted. The sound seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, a chorus of echoes from decades past. Cabins are another source of ghostly encounters. Many guests staying overnight in the Queen Mary have reported waking to find shadowy figures standing at the foot of their beds. These figures are rarely fully visible, more like silhouettes, but their presence is unmistakable. Some have felt the weight of a gaze upon them, even when alone, or have heard whispers that seem to speak directly into their minds. Personal items have been found moved from one side of the room to another, and doors sometimes lock or unlock without any human intervention. The sense of time aboard the ship is often warped. Clocks may stop, watches lose time, and a single night can feel far longer than it actually is. Certain corridors and stairwells are considered particularly active. The first-class deck, where elegant dinners and dances once took place, is said to host the spirits of passengers who met tragic ends during the ship's service years. Sightings of figures in formal attire strolling through hallways are common, sometimes appearing to float above the deck rather than walk. The grand dining room, with its polished wood and chandelier, occasionally fills with the faint sound of clinking silverware and hushed conversations from an era long gone. These auditory hallucinations, or spectral echoes, have been captured on several audio recordings by paranormal investigators, though skeptics argue they could be the result of old plumbing or air circulation. The Queen Mary's history also includes tragic events, from wartime service as a troopship to accidents and unexplained deaths during its civilian service. Many believe that these experiences left lingering energy aboard the vessel, a residue of fear, grief, and unresolved tension that continues to manifest. Paranormal experts visiting the ship have recorded unusual electromagnetic activity in several areas, particularly in the engine room, pool deck, and first-class cabins. Thermal cameras capture fleeting images of indistinct shapes, and EMF meters spike without explanation, suggesting the presence of entities beyond the ordinary. Tour guides occasionally share stories of encounters experienced by past visitors. One report involves a couple exploring the upper decks late at night, hearing footsteps echo behind them, even though no one else was on board. Turning, they saw a man in a naval uniform walking toward them, only to vanish before reaching the railing. Another tale recounts a cleaning crew finding a child's toy moved from the hallway into a nearby cabin, with no explanation for how it got there. Such accounts are often dismissed by the casual observer, yet they persist with remarkable consistency. Despite the chilling stories, the Queen Mary continues to welcome tourists and overnight guests. The allure of experiencing a living piece of history, mingled with the thrill of the unknown, draws many to its decks. Visitors report a mixture of awe and unease, often feeling the presence of the ship's past as soon as they step aboard. The Queen Mary is a place where elegance meets the spectral, where the echoes of the 1930s intermingle with the modern day, and where the line between the living and the dead is constantly blurred. The Queen Mary is more than a historic ship. It is a floating monument to the past, a vessel haunted by memory, tragedy, and restless spirits. From the echoing footsteps in the engine room to the fleeting apparitions on the decks, from shadowy figures at the foot of beds to the cold, oppressive air in forgotten corridors, the ship offers encounters that defy explanation. Guests and crew alike testify to experiences that are both terrifying and compelling, ensuring that the legend of the Queen Mary endures, as strong and mysterious as the waves upon which it once sailed. The Winchester Mystery House in San Jose is a sprawling, enigmatic mansion that has fascinated and terrified visitors for over a century. Designed by Sarah Winchester, heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, the house was built continuously for decades, resulting in a labyrinthine structure filled with impossible architecture. Staircases lead to ceilings, doors open into walls, and rooms seemingly rearrange themselves overnight. While the house is renowned for its eccentric design, it is the reports of supernatural activity that have cemented its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in California. Guests who walk through the mansion often speak of an immediate sense of unease. Even in broad daylight, the corridors seem to stretch unnaturally, and shadows cling to the corners, moving with a life of their own. Staff and tour guides have recounted numerous experiences that defy logical explanation. Cold spots appear suddenly in certain rooms, with temperatures dropping dramatically, as if an invisible presence has entered. These chills are often accompanied by the faint sound of whispers, sometimes unintelligible, other times eerily clear, calling names or repeating phrases from decades past. Perhaps the most commonly reported apparition is that of a woman in a long Victorian gown, believed to be Sarah Winchester herself. Visitors have glimpsed her gliding silently through the hallways, vanishing when approached. Some describe seeing her reflection in mirrors before it disappears, or catching a fleeting image in the corner of their vision. Tour guides have observed objects shifting subtly as if moved by unseen hands, books sliding slightly on shelves, chairs angled differently than before, or doors that were previously closed opening on their own. The architecture of the Winchester house seems almost designed to confuse and disorient. Staircases that climb into ceilings leave visitors wondering whether they are real or illusory, and doors that open into walls create a sense of entrapment. Some rooms appear to have shifted layout since the previous day, with furniture in different positions or hallways seeming longer than before. Many believe that this constant construction and modification, guided by Sarah Winchester's obsession with spirits and the afterlife, imbued the mansion with a restless energy that continues to permeate the space. The mansion's attic, in particular, is a hotspot for paranormal activity. Visitors report hearing footsteps overhead when no one is present, as well as the sensation of being watched. Some have claimed to hear faint cries or murmurs echoing from the rafters, chilling sounds that linger long after the source cannot be identified. In addition, lights in certain rooms flicker inexplicably, and cameras sometimes capture shadowy figures darting across the frame, only to vanish when investigators move closer. Bathrooms and smaller chambers within the house have also become focal points for ghostly encounters. Guests recounts seeing taps turn on by themselves, mirrors fogging up with no explanation, and the distinct feeling of a presence standing behind them. Several visitors have experienced sudden dizziness or nausea while passing through these areas, attributing the sensations to the intense spiritual energy concentrated within the house. These experiences are not limited to a single room, but appear to follow certain patterns, suggesting that some parts of the mansion may be more active than others. Staff members who have spent extended periods in the Winchester house described nights filled with strange occurrences. Footsteps echo in empty hallways, objects move unexpectedly, and doors swing open or shut with no logical cause. Some employees report hearing whispers that seem to respond to their thoughts, or feeling invisible fingers brush against their skin. Security footage sometimes shows fleeting images of figures in period clothing, though these are often distorted or vanish when approached, further fueling the sense of mystery and fear. Several tour guides have shared stories of visitors who experienced unnerving phenomena. One account tells of a woman walking alone through the long corridors, only to feel a cold hand lightly touch her shoulder. Turning quickly, she saw no one, yet the sensation lingered. Another visitor reported seeing a shadowy figure glide past the top of a staircase, its movements fluid and deliberate, before disappearing entirely. These accounts, repeated over decades, have created a rich tapestry of eerie experiences that continue to draw thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Even the exterior of the house contributes to its haunting atmosphere. The sprawling grounds, shrouded in mist during early mornings or foggy evenings, provide a perfect setting for ghostly sightings. Visitors report seeing silhouettes moving behind curtained windows or glimpsing fleeting shapes crossing the gardens. Some believe that the mansion itself acts as a beacon for restless spirits, drawing them to the site where Sarah Winchester devoted her life to appeasing and communicating with the dead. Despite its fame and frequent tourist visits, the Winchester Mystery House maintains an aura of the uncanny. The combination of confusing architecture, historical tragedies, and reported paranormal activity creates an environment where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural feel blurred. Guests often leave with a lingering sense of unease, carrying with them stories of whispered names, flickering lights, and fleeting visions that cannot be easily explained. The Winchester Mystery House is more than a historic landmark. It is a testament to obsession, grief, and the unseen. Sarah Winchester's lifelong construction project has left behind a structure that defies logic and invites speculation. Staircases to nowhere, shifting rooms, and shadowy apparitions contribute to an atmosphere where the past is alive, restless, and ever-present. Visitors and staff alike continue to share experiences of cold spots, spectral figures, and unexplainable phenomena, ensuring that the legend of the Winchester Mystery House endures as one of Northern California's most chilling haunted locations. Alcatraz Island, rising from the cold waters of San Francisco Bay, is a place where history and horror intertwine. Best known as the federal penitentiary that housed some of America's most notorious criminals, Alcatraz carries a legacy of confinement, desperation, and death. Its isolated location, surrounded by icy waters and swirling fog, amplified the sense of isolation for inmates and guards alike. Over the decades, countless reports of paranormal activity have surfaced, suggesting that the island is haunted by the restless spirits of those who lived and died within its formidable walls. Visitors to Alcatraz often speak of a chilling atmosphere that seems to cling to the corridors and cells. Even during the day, the echo of footsteps resonates unnervingly through empty hallways, as though the prison itself remembers every step once taken within its walls. Security personnel and tour guides alike report hearing the clanging of metal doors and the distant sounds of chains dragging across the stone floors. Despite the absence of any human presence, the sounds are particularly pronounced in D Block, infamous for its harsh conditions and solitary confinement cells, where many inmates succumb to despair or madness. D Block, a narrow corridor lined with small cells, is the epicenter of the island's haunted reputation. The walls here are thick, yet voices seem to travel through them, whispering in tones that shift from pleading to angry. Guests have recounted the experience of hearing names called out in hushed tones, or the sensation of a presence hovering just behind them. Some describe feeling cold drafts that pass through the body unexpectedly, despite the normally mild temperatures inside the cell house. A sense of being watched is common, with visitors claiming that their anxiety intensifies as they traverse the hallways. Cell doors, long rusted and heavy, sometimes slam with an unseen force. On occasion, guides and investigators have observed doors swinging open or shutting without explanation, creating sudden bursts of loud noise that echo through the prison. The mechanical groan of the gates, combined with the isolated setting of the island, can be deeply unsettling, leading many to question whether the sounds are entirely natural. Reports of spectral figures have been frequent in these areas, shadowy shapes, glimpsed from the corner of the eye, or indistinct human forms standing silently in empty cells. The sounds of Alcatraz are often the most disturbing. Visitors speak of disembodied footsteps pacing the halls, voices muttering indistinctly, and sudden bangs or crashes that seem to originate from nowhere. Some have claimed to hear the laughter or cries of children, an unexpected and eerie addition to the otherwise adult history of the prison. Others report hearing the voices of guards shouting commands that echo through the empty corridors, as though time is layered past and present together. Paranormal investigators, equipped with audio recording devices, have captured unexplained whispers, growls, and footsteps that have no apparent source, further cementing the island's haunted reputation. The exterior of the prison contributes to the unnerving feeling. The island's cliffs and pathways, exposed to the ever-present fog and waves crashing below, create a sense of isolation that amplifies every sound. Visitors wandering along the perimeter sometimes report fleeting glimpses of figures standing near the guard towers or moving along the edge of the water, vanishing before they can be clearly seen. The harsh environment and the sense of exposure make even mundane occurrences feel sinister, heightening the perception of ghostly activity. Former inmates have contributed to the legends that haunt Alcatraz. Stories of violent encounters, harsh punishments, and despairing suicides provide a historical context that seems to bleed into the paranormal reports. Guards to face danger, and some are said to remain unable or unwilling to leave the place they once patrolled. Tour guides frequently recount tales of prison staff encountering shadows in empty offices, hearing their names called from distant cells, or feeling the weight of invisible hands on their shoulders. These accounts, though anecdotal, are consistent enough to suggest that something beyond the ordinary lingers on the island. One of the most compelling features of Alcatraz is the sense of layered time. Visitors report moments where the past seems to bleed into the present. A corridor may appear empty, yet the echo of a distant shout or the sound of metal scraping evokes the presence of someone long gone. Some describe glimpsing figures dressed in early 20th century prison uniforms, walking with slow, deliberate movements that vanish when directly observed. Others recount the experience of standing in silence, only to feel a sudden pressure or draft that suggests another presence in the room. The island's isolation intensifies the experience. With no immediate access to the mainland and the fog rolling in, even brief noises can feel amplified and disorienting. Guests frequently note the sensation of being watched, an oppressive feeling that seems to grow stronger in the evening hours. Lights flicker in the corridors, and some have witnessed the appearance of glowing orbs or moving shadows, captured both on film and by eyewitness accounts. These manifestations are particularly common in areas associated with hardship, punishment, or tragedy, reinforcing the belief that the island's history contributes to the spectral activity Even after tours and daylight visits, the stories persist. Employees and security staff have experienced unexplained phenomena after the island is closed to the public. Doors may open, lights flicker, or footsteps echo through empty halls. Some claim to have seen the apparitions of inmates or guards wandering the corridors, occasionally interacting with the environment, slamming doors, rattling chains, or disappearing suddenly. These reports contribute to Alcatraz's enduring reputation as one of America's most haunted locations. Alcatraz Island is more than a historical site. It is a living testament to the human experiences of fear, despair, and confinement. The combination of its storied past, its isolated setting, and the consistent reports of ghostly activity create an atmosphere that is both fascinating and unnerving. Visitors leave with stories of phantom footsteps, slamming doors, cold drafts, and shadowy figures, stories that continue to fuel the legend of the haunted penitentiary. For those drawn to the darker side of history, Alcatraz offers a chilling experience where the echoes of the past are never far away. The island's corridors hold the memories of countless souls, some restless and lingering, and the whispers, shadows, and footsteps are reminders that even in death, the prisoners and guards of Alcatraz have not truly departed. The Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco stands as a striking Victorian landmark, its ornate gables and elegant turrets capturing the eye of every passerby. But beyond its architectural charm lies a dark and chilling history. Originally opened as a girls' boarding school in the late 19th century, the building was a place of education, discipline, and routine, but also tragedy. Over the decades, numerous deaths occurred within its walls, many of them young students who succumbed to illness or accidents. Today, the hotel is said to carry the lingering presence of those who never truly left. Their spirits entwine with the halls and rooms that once echoed with their lives. Guests and staff alike have reported strange and unsettling phenomena that hint at the building's haunted past. Hallways that are empty during the day seem to shift in atmosphere after dark, taking on an icy chill and an oppressive sense of being watched. Many visitors describe fleeting figures appearing just at the corner of their vision, only to vanish when looked at directly. Some have seen the shapes of young girls in period clothing, wandering silently through the corridors or peering from doorways, as though carrying on with routines from another time. The laughter of children, once a cheerful hallmark of the boarding school, now often comes across as ghostly and disembodied. Guests have recounted the sensation of hearing giggles echoing from empty rooms, distant and faint at first, then growing slightly louder, filling entire hallways with an eerie resonance. Sometimes the laughter is accompanied by the sound of footsteps, pacing back and forth as if invisible students are moving between classrooms. Even when the hotel is quiet, these sounds can emerge without warning, leaving those present with an unsettling sense that the past is intruding on the present. Some of the most active areas of the hotel are the former classrooms, now converted into guest rooms. Here, visitors frequently report sudden drops in temperature, a chill that seems to surround the body, regardless of the heating system. Doors occasionally open and close by themselves, and windows have been known to rattle without any external cause. Mirrors, long associated with paranormal activity, sometimes appear fogged as though someone has breathed upon them, yet no one is there. Objects, such as books or small personal items, have been found moved from one side of a room to another, as though an unseen hand rearranged them. Staff members working late shifts often experience the most persistent encounters. Cleaning crews and night attendants have spoken of cold drafts that seem to follow them, whispers that rise from empty corners, and the sensation of being observed, even when alone. Some report feeling a light touch on their shoulders or a tug on their clothing, yet turning around reveals no one. Security cameras occasionally capture unexplained shadows or movements, though they often appear distorted and vanish upon closer inspection. These experiences are frequent enough to suggest that the hotel is far more than merely a historic structure. It is a repository of lingering spirits. The main staircase, with its polished banisters and grand appearance, is particularly notorious. Guests report seeing shadowy figures descending or ascending, only to disappear when approached. The wooden steps sometimes creak under invisible weight, creating the impression that someone is moving above or below, even when the floors are empty. Several visitors have described the sensation of being drawn toward the staircase by an unseen force, as if the building itself is guiding them toward the spirits that inhabit it. Certain rooms are said to be more active than others, often those with the most tragic history. Room 410, for instance, was once a dormitory for students, and multiple reports describe fleeting glimpses of small figures and the distant sound of weeping. Guests who have stayed overnight in these rooms sometimes awaken to the sensation of breath on their necks or the feeling of being watched from the corner of the room. Despite the discomfort these experiences bring, many visitors are drawn back, eager to glimpse the unexplained or feel the presence of the past. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Queen Anne Hotel report a range of unusual phenomena. Electromagnetic field detectors often spike without reason, and audio recordings sometimes capture indistinct voices and whispers. Thermal cameras occasionally show cold patches or shadowy forms moving through hallways. While skeptics may attribute these occurrences to the age of the building, the creaking floors, or drafts, the consistency of reports from guests, staff, and investigators alike points to a presence that cannot be fully explained. Even during daytime tours, the sense of history pressing upon visitors can be overwhelming. The decor, preserved from its original period, seems almost alive with the memories of its former occupants. Light patterns cast by the sun through stained glass windows create shifting shadows that seem to move independently, and old furniture often appears to have been touched or shifted slightly since the last visitor passed. For those sensitive to spiritual energy, the entire hotel resonates with a quiet, lingering tension, as if the building itself remembers its past in vivid detail. The Queen Anne Hotel is more than a historic lodging. It is a place where the echoes of the past persist in the present. From the sound of ghostly laughter to fleeting figures in hallways, from icy drafts in guest rooms to shadows on the staircase, the presence of the young girls who once lived and died within its walls is palpable. Visitors often leave with a mixture of awe and unease, carrying with them stories of whispers, movements, and spectral figures that defy explanation. The legend of the Queen Anne Hotel endures, a testament to its tragic history and the spirits that continue to roam its Victorian halls. The abandoned railroad tunnels in the Oakland Hills are remnants of an era when trains thundered through the region, connecting communities and transporting goods across Northern California. Constructed in the early 20th century, these tunnels were once busy, echoing with the rumble of locomotives and the shouts of workers. Today, however, the tracks are rusted, the tunnels silent, and the darkness within them has become a breeding ground for fear and legend. Over the decades, the Oakland Hills tunnels have developed a reputation as one of the most haunted and unsettling sites in the Bay Area, drawing urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and thrill seekers eager to test their courage. Those who venture inside often speak of a pervasive chill that seems to follow them through the darkness. The temperature drops dramatically as soon as one crosses the threshold, creating an almost suffocating cold that penetrates clothing and bone alike. Visitors report feeling as though unseen eyes are upon them, tracking every step through the narrow, crumbling passageways. Even during the daytime, the darkness of the tunnels seems to swallow all light, amplifying the sense of isolation and heightening the fear that something unseen lurks just beyond the beam of a flashlight. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena in the Oakland Hills tunnels. Paranormal explorers claim to have glimpsed dark silhouettes darting along the walls or standing at the far end of a tunnel before vanishing when approached. These figures often appear humanoid but lack distinguishing features, as though they are imprints of the past rather than living entities. Some witnesses report seeing faint glimmers of light surrounding the figures, giving them an ethereal glow that flickers in the corner of one's vision. The feeling of being followed or watched is almost universal among those who enter the tunnels after dark, adding to the sense that the abandoned passages are alive in some otherworldly way. Whispering voices are another hallmark of the haunted tunnels. Explorers often report hearing soft, indistinct murmurs echoing from the walls, seeming to come from every direction at once. The voices sometimes sound like conversations, the language and words impossible to understand, while at other times they seem to call a person's name, drawing them deeper into the labyrinth of darkness. Many who have entered the tunnels alone describe the experience as disorienting and terrifying, with the whispers growing louder or more insistent the further they proceed. Some have even claimed that attempting to respond aloud causes the whispers to pause momentarily before resuming, as if the tunnels themselves are listening. Cold drafts moving against the body are common, often accompanied by inexplicable sensations of touch. Explorers report feeling invisible hands brushing against their arms, shoulders, or backs, yet, when they turn, no one is there. The air in the tunnels seems unusually heavy, pressing down on the chest and amplifying feelings of unease. Flashlights flicker without cause, and electronic devices often malfunction or lose power inexplicably, heightening the impression that the tunnels are beyond the ordinary. Urban legends surrounding the Oakland Hills tunnels have grown over the decades. Locals warn that travelers who enter after dark may never return, their spirits trapped within the labyrinth of brick and stone. Stories abound of explorers who vanished without a trace, leaving only abandoned equipment or footsteps that fade into nothing. Some claim that these disappearances are the result of supernatural forces, while others insist that the tunnel's complexity and darkness alone are enough to disorient and trap the unwary. Over time, these tales have merged with actual reports of ghostly sightings and strange occurrences, creating a chilling folklore around the site. The history of the tunnels adds to the unease. Constructed under difficult terrain, the tunnels were the sites of frequent accidents and labor disputes, leaving behind a legacy of hardship and sometimes death. Workers who perished during construction are said to have left spiritual imprints, their anguish and frustration lingering in the very walls. Paranormal investigators often suggest that this residual energy may be responsible for the cold spots, whispers, and shadowy figures that continue to haunt the tunnels today. The combination of historical tragedy and modern exploration creates a perfect storm for ghostly activity. Explorers frequently report that the tunnels seem to shift as they move through them. Hallways appear longer or shorter than memory suggests, and familiar passageways can suddenly feel disorienting. Footsteps echo in impossible directions, and openings sometimes seem to vanish entirely, including flickering lights, shadowy shapes, and orbs of light moving through the air. Audio devices have recorded low-frequency sounds and whispers that do not correspond to any natural source. These findings, though often debated, add credence to the belief that the Oakland Hills tunnels are more than just abandoned passages. They are a nexus of the unexplained. Visitors also report a profound sense of temporal dislocation. Time inside the tunnels seems distorted, with short periods feeling prolonged and long stretches passing unnoticed. Some explorers describe moments where it feels as though the past is pressing in, with echoes of laborers' footsteps, the hiss of steam from old engines, or the faint clatter of tools reverberating through the walls. The sensation is disorienting, reinforcing the idea that the tunnels exist partially outside the normal flow of time, holding remnants of those who once traversed them. Despite the danger and the fear, the Oakland Hills tunnels continue to attract thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. The combination of history, isolation, and unexplained activity creates a powerful draw. Visitors leave with stories of whispers in the dark, fleeting shadows, icy drafts, and the sensation of being watched. Whether these experiences are the product of residual energy, heightened imagination, or something far more sinister, they have cemented the tunnel's reputation as one of Northern California's most haunted and mysterious locations. The Oakland Hills Railroad tunnels are more than crumbling structures. They are living remnants of the past, carrying the echoes of laborers, travelers, and possibly restless spirits. The cold air, whispered voices, shifting passageways, and shadowy figures ensure that those who enter will not forget the experience. For those daring enough to explore, the tunnels offer a chilling journey where the ordinary and the supernatural meet, leaving an indelible mark of fear and fascination. Napa State Hospital, nestled in the rolling hills of Northern California, is a sprawling asylum with a dark and unsettling past, established in the late 19th century. It once housed thousands of patients suffering from mental illness, many of whom were neglected, mistreated, or subjected to experimental treatments. Over the decades, countless lives were lost within its walls, leaving behind a legacy of suffering and despair. Today, while portions of the hospital remain operational, many buildings have been abandoned, decaying silently and becoming the center of chilling stories of paranormal activity. Visitors and staff describe the hospital as a place where the air itself feels heavy, weighted with sorrow and unseen presence. Even during daylight hours, the hallways can feel oppressive, but it is at night when the true horror is said to emerge. Security personnel working late shifts frequently report lights turning on and off with no explanation, creating stuttering flashes of illumination that cast eerie shadows across the cracked walls and peeling paint. Doors swing open into empty rooms, sometimes slamming shut with a force that rattles nearby windows. Some of the most active areas are the old patient wards, where the echoes of the past seem most potent. Disembodied voices are perhaps the most common phenomenon reported at Napa State Hospital. Staff members have recounted hearing names called out from distant corridors, often in tones of urgency or fear. Sometimes the voices are recognizable as human. Other times they are distorted, elongated, or whispering in languages unknown. Visitors exploring the abandoned wings often experience moments of acute unease, feeling as though they are being followed or observed by invisible eyes. Some describe hearing faint screams or sobbing that rise and fall as if carried by the building itself. Shadow people have been captured on security cameras and by paranormal investigators, adding to the hospital's haunted reputation. These dark, featureless figures are often glimpsed moving quickly along hallways or lingering in corners before vanishing suddenly. Witnesses describe a sense of menace when these figures appear, an almost tangible pressure in the air that causes discomfort or even fear-induced nausea. Some explorers have reported being brushed by invisible hands or feeling a cold weight press down on their shoulders, leaving a lingering chill that persists long after leaving the building. The asylum's design contributes to its unnerving atmosphere. Long, narrow hallways intersect with staircases that lead to nowhere, and many of the abandoned rooms are lined with rusted beds and decaying furniture. The combination of dim lighting, peeling wallpaper, and the remnants of past lives creates an environment ripe for unsettling experiences. Explorers often report that hallways seem to stretch unnaturally, or that rooms appear to shift slightly when revisited, making the space feel alive with unseen forces. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly active. The old treatment wings, where patients endured electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and other experimental procedures, are hotspots for paranormal activity. Guests have described the sensation of being watched as they pass through these rooms, accompanied by sudden temperature drops and faint, almost imperceptible whispering. Some claim to have seen fleeting glimpses of former patients wandering the corridors, their movements slow and deliberate, before disappearing into walls or shadows. The hospital's abandoned basement is another area steeped in reports of unexplained occurrences. It is said that the basement once housed isolation cells, and today visitors describe hearing the clanging of heavy doors, dragging chains, and muffled cries echoing through the tunnels. Some explorers have claimed that the walls themselves seem to hum or vibrate, as though carrying residual energy from the suffering that occurred there. Electronic equipment often malfunctions in these areas, with flashlights dimming, cameras freezing, or EMF meters spiking inexplicably. Even areas that remain in use are not immune to paranormal claims. Staff who work in administrative offices or storage rooms report strange occurrences, such as papers being moved, lights flickering, or cold drafts that appear without source. Some have described the sensation of invisible hands brushing past them, accompanied by whispers that vanish when attention is focused on them. These repeated experiences, reported by multiple employees across decades, reinforce the hospital's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is disturbingly thin. Explorers often note that time seems to behave oddly within the hospital. Minutes can feel like hours, and hallways that were familiar moments before can appear unfamiliar or disorienting. Visitors report a dissonance between what they see and what they feel, as though the building itself is manipulating perception. Many describe the experience as mentally exhausting, a combination of fear, unease, and a sense of being trapped in a space that is alive with residual emotion. Urban legends surrounding Napa State Hospital further enhance its sinister reputation. Some tales speak of patients who died in isolation, never to have their names spoken again, and spirits that seek to reenact moments of suffering or frustration. Others warn of ghostly nurses and doctors still wandering the halls, performing duties long since ended. While skeptics may attribute these experiences to imagination or the natural eeriness of abandoned buildings, the consistency of reports from staff, visitors, and paranormal investigators suggests a presence that defies ordinary explanation. Despite its grim history, Napa State Hospital continues to draw curiosity and exploration. Paranormal enthusiasts are drawn to the site for the chance to witness or capture the unexplained, while historians and thrill-seekers are intrigued by its dark legacy. Those who venture into the abandoned wings leave with a mixture of fascination and unease, recounting whispers, shadows, sudden chills, and the sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Napa State Hospital is more than a building. It is a monument to human suffering, a place where pain and fear have left their mark on the very structure itself. The combination of tragic history, abandoned architecture, and repeated reports of paranormal phenomena ensures that its corridors, wards, and basements remain sites of both fascination and terror. The hospital's haunted reputation endures, a chilling reminder that the echoes of the past often linger long after the living have departed. Napa State Hospital, nestled in the rolling hills of Northern California, is a sprawling asylum with a dark and unsettling past. Established in the late 19th century, it once housed thousands of patients suffering from mental illness, many of whom were neglected, mistreated, or subjected to experimental treatments. Over the decades, countless lives were lost within its walls, leaving behind a legacy of suffering and despair. Today, while portions of the hospital remain operational, many buildings have been abandoned, decaying silently and becoming the center of chilling stories of paranormal activity. Visitors and staff describe the hospital as a place where the air itself feels heavy, weighted with sorrow and unseen presence. Even during daylight hours, the hallways can feel oppressive, but it is at night when the true horror is said to emerge. Security personnel working late shifts frequently report lights turning on and off with no explanation, creating stuttering flashes of illumination that cast eerie shadows across the cracked walls and peeling paint. Doors swing open into empty rooms, sometimes slamming shut with a force that rattles nearby windows. Some of the most active areas are the old patient wards, where the echoes of the past seem most potent. Disembodied voices are perhaps the most common phenomenon reported at Napa State Hospital. Staff members have recounted hearing names called out from distant corridors, often in tones of urgency or fear. Sometimes the voices are recognizable as human. Other times they are distorted, elongated, or whispering in languages unknown. Visitors exploring the abandoned wings often experience moments of acute unease, feeling as though they are being followed or observed by invisible eyes. Some describe hearing faint screams or sobbing that rise and fall as if carried by the building itself. Shadow people have been captured on security cameras and by paranormal investigators, adding to the hospital's haunted reputation. These dark, featureless figures are often glimpsed moving quickly along hallways or lingering in corners before vanishing suddenly. Witnesses describe a sense of menace when these figures appear, an almost tangible pressure in the air that causes discomfort or even fear-induced nausea. Some explorers have reported being brushed by invisible hands or feeling a cold weight pressed down on their shoulders, leaving a lingering chill that persists long after leaving the building. The asylum's design contributes to its unnerving atmosphere. Long, narrow hallways intersect with staircases that lead to nowhere, and many of the abandoned rooms are lined with rusted beds and decaying furniture. The combination of dim lighting, peeling wallpaper, and the remnants of past lives creates an environment ripe for unsettling experiences. Explorers often report that hallways seem to stretch unnaturally, or that rooms appear to shift slightly when revisited, making the space feel alive with unseen forces. Certain areas of the hospital are particularly active. The old treatment wings, where patients endured electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and other experimental procedures, are hotspots for paranormal activity. Guests have described the sensation of being watched as they pass through these rooms, accompanied by sudden temperature drops and faint, almost imperceptible whispering. Some claim to have seen fleeting glimpses of former patients wandering the corridors, their movements slow and deliberate, before disappearing into walls or shadows. The hospital's abandoned basement is another area steeped in reports of unexplained occurrences. It is said that the basement once housed isolation cells, and today visitors describe hearing the clanging of heavy doors, dragging chains, and muffled cries echoing through the tunnels. Some explorers have claimed that the walls themselves seem to hum or vibrate, as though carrying residual energy from the suffering that occurred there. Electronic equipment often malfunctions in these areas, with flashlights dimming, cameras freezing, or EMF meters spiking inexplicably. Even areas that remain in use are not immune to paranormal claims. Staff who work in administrative offices or storage rooms report strange occurrences, such as papers being moved, lights flickering, or cold drafts that appear without source. Some have described the sensation of invisible hands brushing past them, accompanied by whispers that vanish when attention is focused on them. These repeated experiences, reported by multiple employees across decades, reinforce the hospital's reputation as a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is disturbingly thin. Explorers often note that time seems to behave oddly within the hospital. Minutes can feel like hours, and hallways that were familiar moments before can appear unfamiliar or disorienting. Visitors report a dissonance between what they see and what they feel, as though the building itself is manipulating perception. Many describe the experience as mentally exhausting, a combination of fear, unease, and a sense of being trapped in a space that is alive with residual emotion. Urban legends surrounding Napa State Hospital further enhance its sinister reputation. Some tales speak of patients who died in isolation, never to have their names spoken again, and spirits that seek to reenact moments of suffering or frustration. Others warn of ghostly nurses and doctors still wandering the halls, performing duties long since ended. While skeptics may attribute these experiences to imagination or the natural eeriness of abandoned buildings, the consistency of reports from staff, visitors, and paranormal investigators suggests a presence that defies ordinary explanation. Despite its grim history, Napa State Hospital continues to draw curiosity and exploration. Paranormal enthusiasts are drawn to the site for the chance to witness or capture the unexplained, while historians and thrill-seekers are intrigued by its dark legacy. Those who venture into the abandoned wings leave with a mixture of fascination and unease, recounting whispers, shadows, sudden chills, and the sense of being watched by unseen eyes. Napa State Hospital is more than a building. It is a monument to human suffering, a place where pain and fear have left their mark on the very structure itself. The combination of tragic history, abandoned architecture, and repeated reports of paranormal phenomena ensures that its corridors, wards, and basements remain sites of both fascination and terror. The hospital's haunted reputation endures, a chilling reminder that the echoes of the past often linger long after the living have departed. The Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco is renowned for its elegance, sweeping views, and timeless luxury. Yet behind its gilded halls and opulent ballrooms lies a side of the hotel few see during daylight hours. Over the decades, stories have emerged of ghostly encounters and unexplained phenomena, transforming the Fairmont from a symbol of sophistication into one of the city's most haunted landmarks. Visitors and staff alike have shared chilling accounts of experiences that cannot be explained by modern logic, suggesting that the hotel carries the echoes of its storied past. Guests often recount being woken in the middle of the night by cold hands brushing against them, a touch that sends shivers down the spine and disappears before it can be traced. These incidents are sometimes accompanied by the sensation of an invisible presence lingering in the room, an almost imperceptible pressure that seems to watch or follow the occupant. Some claim to have seen fleeting shadows glide across walls or drift along hallways, vanishing when approached, leaving only the unsettling impression that the building itself is alive with unseen entities. The Fairmont's hallways are a hotspot for paranormal activity. Late-night staff have described corridors that suddenly feel frigid, with temperatures dropping inexplicably in localized patches. Doors sometimes open or close on their own, and lights flicker without any apparent cause. Occasionally, a shadowy figure can be glimpsed just beyond the periphery of vision, appearing human but lacking any distinct features, giving the impression of a visitor from another era walking silently alongside the present. The sensation of being observed is frequently reported, making even the most seasoned employees uneasy during night shifts. Music is another recurring phenomenon. Guests and staff have reported hearing the soft strains of piano or orchestral music emanating from the grand ballrooms when no one is playing. The melodies often carry a faint echo, as if bouncing off the walls from decades past. Some visitors describe the music as joyous, reminiscent of elegant gatherings and lavish dances, while others find it sorrowful, imbued with a sense of longing and melancholy. Whether the music represents remnants of past celebrations or the lingering spirits of former patrons remains a topic of speculation among paranormal enthusiasts. Perfume, too, seems to drift through the hotel in inexplicable ways. Guests have reported catching the faint scent of floral or musky fragrances when no one else is present. Often, these fragrances are tied to sudden feelings of unease or the fleeting impression of a figure in period clothing gliding past. Some theorize that the scents are residual echoes, capturing moments of past elegance and the presence of those who once frequented the Fairmont's luxurious spaces. The combination of touch, shadow, music, and scent creates a multi-sensory experience that many describe as both mesmerizing and unsettling. The hotel's storied past contributes to its haunted reputation. Built in the early 20th century, the Fairmont has hosted countless events, from high society balls to political gatherings. Over the decades, guests have passed through its rooms and corridors, some leaving behind memories that seem to linger. Tragedies, including sudden deaths and historic accidents, have also occurred within its walls, and it is these moments of abrupt loss that some believe have left spiritual imprints. Staff report that rooms associated with particularly tragic events tend to have more intense activity, with frequent sightings, cold spots, and auditory phenomena. Paranormal investigators have documented unusual occurrences throughout the hotel. Thermal imaging sometimes reveals cold patches or the vague outlines of figures where no one stands. Audio recordings capture whispers, footsteps, or fragments of piano music that cannot be attributed to any human source. Lights often flicker in patterns, as if responding to an unseen presence moving through the space. Though skeptics may attribute these events to building quirks or natural drafts, the consistency and variety of reports over decades suggest a phenomenon that cannot be entirely explained by conventional means. Guest experiences are varied, but many describe a palpable sense of history pressing against the present. Hallways, staircases, and lounges seem imbued with memories, where moments of joy, sorrow, and ordinary life resonate in the air. Some visitors feel a gentle tug of curiosity, compelled to explore, while others experience an instinctive unease, sensing the weight of unseen eyes. Even in areas that are bright and busy during the day, the Fairmont spaces seem to retain a subtle aura of the past, a quiet reminder that history lingers. The hotel's ballrooms are particularly active during paranormal reports. Guests recount feeling watched during evening events or noticing shadows flitting along the walls in mirrors and polished wood paneling. Some report seeing faint figures dancing or moving elegantly, as though attending a long-forgotten gala. These experiences are often accompanied by the soft strains of music, the faint scent of perfume, or the cold brush of an invisible hand, creating an immersive encounter that connects the present with echoes of the Fairmont's storied past. Even for those who never directly witness the supernatural, the atmosphere of the Fairmont is difficult to ignore. Many guests leave with stories of unexplained sensations, fleeting shadows, and the lingering impressions of a presence just out of reach. For staff, the experiences become part of daily life, a reminder that the hotel is more than a building. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and lingering spirits. The combination of elegance, history, and unexplained phenomena has cemented the Fairmont's reputation as one of San Francisco's most haunted landmarks, drawing both curiosity and caution in equal measure. The Fairmont Hotel is a place where luxury and the supernatural coexist. From cold hands brushing against sleeping guests to shadowy figures gliding through hallways. From ethereal music echoing through empty ballrooms to the faint perfume of bygone eras. The hotel offers a glimpse into a world where the past refuses to remain silent. For those who walk its halls, the Fairmont is not only a testament to refinement and history, but also a chilling reminder that the echoes of lives long gone can still leave their mark. The Petaluma Adobe, located in the heart of Northern California, stands as a testament to the state's early settler history. Built in the early 19th century, the adobe served as a bustling hub for ranch life, commerce, and community gatherings. Its thick clay walls and sprawling layout once echoed with the sounds of daily life, horses clopping along the grounds, wagons creaking over uneven earth, and settlers exchanging news or tending to livestock. Yet beneath this historic charm lies a darker side. Over the years, the Petaluma Adobe has developed a reputation as one of Northern California's most haunted sites, where echoes of past tragedies linger, and the spirits of those who suffered violent or untimely deaths are said to roam the grounds. Visitors often report an overwhelming sense of presence as they approach the adobe. Even on sunny afternoons, there is a heaviness in the air, a subtle feeling of being watched. Once inside, the atmosphere grows more unsettling. The thick adobe walls seem to trap sound, amplifying even the faintest noises. Guests have reported hearing the distant clatter of hooves and the grinding of wagon wheels on the grounds outside, only to find the courtyard empty upon inspection. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, giving the sensation that invisible figures are moving just out of sight. Ghostly figures in period attire are among the most frequently reported phenomena at the Petaluma Adobe. Visitors and staff describe seeing men and women dressed in early Californian clothing, long skirts, waistcoats, and hats moving slowly across hallways or along the outdoor walkways. Some figures appear to be going about everyday activities, brushing against invisible objects or tending to unseen livestock. Others seem to pause and look directly at the living, as if acknowledging their presence before vanishing into thin air. Witnesses often report a profound sense of unease during these encounters, as though they have intruded upon the lives of people frozen in time. Sudden chills and cold spots are a common experience throughout the adobe. These pockets of cold air often appear without any visible source, descending from ceilings, corners, or along the hallways. Guests sometimes feel the temperature drop sharply as they pass certain rooms, accompanied by a faint, almost imperceptible whispering that seems to drift through the walls. Many interpret these occurrences as residual energy left by the settlers who lived and sometimes died within the adobe, their presence lingering long after the adobe ceased being a fully functional hub of daily life. The sounds of animals, particularly horses, are especially unsettling. Visitors have reported hearing neighing, the shuffle of hooves, and the jingling of harnesses in areas where no livestock has been present for decades. The noises are often intermittent, sometimes appearing just outside a doorway or echoing through the hallways in a way that seems impossible, given the structure's current emptiness. Some paranormal investigators suggest that these sounds are echoes from past events, moments of life preserved in the adobe's thick walls, replaying themselves to anyone sensitive enough to perceive them. The adobe's history of violence adds to its haunting reputation. Records indicate that disputes, accidents, and even murders occurred on the grounds during its early years. Individuals who died under tragic circumstances are said to be particularly restless, their spirits bound to the location by unresolved trauma or sudden departure. Visitors often report feeling watched when standing in areas tied to these events, or sensing a presence close enough to brush against their clothing or hair. Some have even reported faint, fleeting figures of people who seem to be reenacting moments from their lives or last actions. Many paranormal investigators have visited the Petaluma adobe, drawn by reports of spectral activity. Some have captured unexplained orbs of light drifting through rooms, while others have recorded faint whispers or low-frequency sounds that do not correspond to any natural source. Cameras sometimes detect shadowy figures moving through hallways where no one is present, and temperature sensors consistently show cold spots in areas linked to reported sightings. These findings, though debated, contribute to the adobe's reputation as a site where history and the supernatural intersect. Guests also report a strong sense of time distortion within the adobe. Moments can feel stretched or condensed, and familiar areas sometimes appear subtly different upon revisiting. Hallways may seem longer, rooms slightly shifted, and doors occasionally appear where none existed before. Many visitors interpret these anomalies as evidence of a spiritual or temporal imprint, where the experiences of those who lived and died at the adobe continue to affect the present. Outdoor areas are not exempt from haunt. The adobe's courtyards and surrounding fields carry reports of spectral horses, phantom wagons, and figures moving through the tall grass. Some witnesses describe seeing settlers pausing near fences or along paths, only to vanish when approached. These encounters often leave visitors with a mixture of awe and fear, a sense of witnessing history replayed through the veil of the supernatural. Despite, or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Petaluma adobe continues to attract visitors, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Many leave with stories of chilling encounters, cold hands brushing past them, shadowy figures in period attire, phantom sounds of horses and wagons, and sudden temperature drops that make the hair on the back of the neck stand on end. The adobe's atmosphere seems to preserve not only the physical structure of the past, but also its emotional weight, holding within it the echoes of lives lived, struggles endured, and deaths suffered. The Petaluma adobe is more than a historic site. It is a living reminder of the people who shaped early California and the tragedies they endured. From spectral settlers moving silently through the hallways to the distant sound of hooves on empty grounds, the adobe carries the lingering presence of its past. Visitors who explore its halls are met with a chilling blend of history and the supernatural, a haunting experience that bridges the gap between the living and the echoes of those who came before. The Presidio in San Francisco, a historic military post dating back to the 18th century, is renowned for its breathtaking views, sprawling grounds, and storied past. Yet beneath its serene landscapes lies a darker, more mysterious presence. For decades, visitors, staff, and paranormal enthusiasts have reported experiences that suggest the spirits of soldiers and personnel who once lived and died on the grounds have never truly departed. The Presidio's long military history, punctuated by conflict, discipline, and tragedy, has left behind an aura that many describe as heavy, watchful, and occasionally chilling. Those who walk the grounds at night often speak of phantom footsteps echoing across the paths, perfectly synchronized, as if a troop of soldiers is marching in formation. The sounds are sometimes faint, like distant tapping, and at other times startlingly close, crisp and deliberate, reverberating against the trees and empty buildings. Witnesses describe a feeling of being observed, a subtle pressure in the air that seems to follow them, making them acutely aware of every movement. Often, when approached, the source of the footsteps vanishes into the shadows, leaving behind only the lingering sense of presence. Figures in military uniform are a recurring sighting at the Presidio. Visitors have reported seeing men in period attire, khaki, blue, or dress uniforms from various eras walking along pathways, pausing by buildings, or disappearing behind trees and walls. These figures appear solid from a distance, but often lose definition when approached, fading into mist or the ambient darkness. Some observers report that these apparitions seem aware of their surroundings, as though caught between worlds, moving with a precision that mirrors the discipline of active duty soldiers. Cold spots and sudden temperature drops are commonly reported throughout the grounds. These chills appear unpredictably, often localized to particular areas, such as the edge of a building, along a pathway, or near historic barracks. Visitors describe the sensation as an icy hand brushing over the skin or a sudden chill seeping into the bones, accompanied by a feeling of heaviness, like an unseen weight pressing down. Some believe these phenomena are residual energy from past events, long hours of training, tense drills, or traumatic incidents that have left an imprint on the land itself. Abandoned buildings and military structures on the Presidio are especially active with reports of paranormal activity. Barracks, storage facilities, and old offices are said to carry echoes of the past. Lights flicker inexplicably, doors creak open without cause, and objects occasionally shift on their own. Staff and explorers have recounted hearing conversations, commands being issued, and faint laughter or shouting, as if the echoes of daily life had been trapped within the walls. Some claim to feel nudges or brushes from unseen hands as they navigate the hallways, reinforcing the impression that the spirits are actively interacting with the present. The Presidio's long history of conflict and military life has left behind not only spirits but a narrative of discipline, duty, and sometimes tragedy. Soldiers who perished on the grounds or in nearby conflicts are said to linger, their presence woven into the fabric of the landscape. Guests often report moments of sudden unease when standing near historic sites, a sensation of time shifting, or the fleeting impression of a soldier passing behind them. Some witnesses describe glimpsing entire patrols, moving silently across the grounds, dissolving into nothing as they come closer. Visitors have also reported auditory phenomena, from faint bugle calls echoing in the distance to muffled marching sounds that seem to follow them along pathways. Occasionally, the sounds are accompanied by voices giving commands or speaking in military jargon. These occurrences are often reported near old parade grounds or training areas, where the historical significance of the locations seems to amplify the paranormal activity. Many interpret these experiences as echoes of intense emotional energy, moments of life that imprinted themselves permanently onto the site. The Presidio's natural environment enhances the eerie atmosphere. Thick trees, rolling hills, and foggy evenings create an environment where shadows stretch unnaturally and sounds carry in unexpected ways. The interplay of light and dark, coupled with the historical weight of the location, often leads visitors to perceive presences even before they are seen. Those who spend extended time exploring the grounds frequently describe the sensation of being guided or followed, as though invisible soldiers are ensuring the boundaries of their post remain respected. Urban legends surrounding the Presidio add to its haunting allure. Stories tell of sentries who remain at their posts, of officers walking the grounds long after their deaths, and of soldiers appearing during quiet nights, marching in formation, or standing silently at attention. Some believe the spirits are protective, guarding the history of the Presidio and the memories of those who lived and died there. Others suggest that unresolved trauma and sudden deaths have anchored restless souls, causing them to repeat routines and patrols as they did in life. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the Presidio, hoping to capture evidence of the unexplained. Reports include EMF spikes, anomalous temperature readings, audio recordings of voices and marching, and photographic anomalies showing faint figures where no one stood. While skeptics may attribute these experiences to imagination or natural phenomena, the consistency and number of reports spanning decades suggest a persistent presence. The Presidio is a unique blend of natural beauty, historical significance, and spectral intrigue. From phantom footsteps and figures in uniform to cold spots, whispers, and the heavy air of history, the grounds continue to captivate those who walk among them. Visitors often leave with a deep respect for the soldiers who shaped the site, alongside a lingering sense of unease, aware that the past is never truly gone here. The ghostly activity at the Presidio reminds us that history is not confined to books or plaques. It lives in the very spaces where it occurred. Every step along the pathways, every glance down the fog-laden hills, carries with it the weight of lives lived in duty and discipline. The echoes of soldiers long gone remain, their presence felt in shadows, cold drafts, and marching footsteps, a chilling testament to the enduring imprint of the past. Bodie Ghost Town, nestled in the high deserts of Mono County, California, is often hailed as one of the best preserved relics of the American gold rush. Once a bustling mining town in the late 1800s, Bodie thrived with the promise of gold, its streets lined with saloons, homes, and businesses. Today, it stands as a time capsule, frozen in decay, with weathered buildings, rusting mining equipment, and silent streets that speak to a long-forgotten era. Yet despite its abandonment, Bodie is far from empty. Over the decades, visitors and paranormal enthusiasts have reported chilling encounters, suggesting that the town's long-departed residents may never have truly left. One of the most common experiences in Bodie is the sighting of spectral miners. Guests often describe figures dressed in period clothing, carrying tools, or moving with the slow, deliberate gait of men engaged in labor. These apparitions are sometimes seen in the windows of old homes or wandering the streets, pausing briefly as though observing the living before vanishing into the landscape. Witnesses report that the figures seem solid at first, catching the light in their clothing, only to dissolve into mist or shadows when approached, leaving behind an unsettling sense of presence. Doors throughout Bodie often slam without warning, particularly in the old saloons and homes. Many visitors have reported opening a door only to have it suddenly close behind them, sometimes with a force strong enough to startle. These occurrences are frequently accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, a cold draft rushing through rooms where no natural ventilation exists. Some theorize that these inexplicable movements are caused by the energy of the town's past, residual activity left behind by miners and townsfolk who once lived in these buildings. Phantom figures are not restricted to the streets. Windows provide some of the eeriest encounters. Visitors have claimed to see faces peering from abandoned homes or businesses, expressions frozen in mid-motion, only to disappear when the observer moves closer. In other cases, shadowy shapes appear briefly in doorways or behind broken window panes, giving the impression that the town is still under quiet surveillance by its long-gone residents. The sensation of being watched is a recurring theme, with many guests reporting the feeling of unseen eyes tracking their every step as they navigate the desolate streets. The streets themselves seem to carry echoes of Bodie's past. Some visitors report hearing the distant clatter of horse hooves on wooden sidewalks, the faint clang of mining tools striking rock, or the low hum of conversations carried on the wind. These sounds are often fleeting, vanishing as suddenly as they appear, leaving those who heard them questioning whether their minds were playing tricks. Yet, the consistency of these reports over decades suggests that the town itself may be replaying fragments of its former life, caught between the past and present. Even in broad daylight, Bodie can feel alive with unseen presences. The sun illuminates dusty streets and decaying structures, yet shadows seem to linger longer than they should, and corners of buildings often appear darker than the natural light allows. Visitors report a heavy atmosphere, a sensation that the air itself is thick with memories of hardship, greed, and life cut short. Many describe a visceral feeling of walking among the dead, where every creaking floorboard or gust of wind could signify the presence of a spirit. Saloon and hotel buildings are frequent hotspots for paranormal activity. Guests have recounted hearing the laughter of patrons, clinking glasses, and the faint strains of piano music. Even though the establishments have long been silent, the echoes are sometimes accompanied by cold spots or the brief flicker of movement in peripheral vision, suggesting that the revelry of Bodhi's heyday continues to imprint itself on the surroundings. A replaying of the emotions and activities that defined its peak years. Miners' cabins, though often in advanced states of decay, also host strange occurrences. Visitors report objects being slightly out of place after observation, as if handled by invisible hands. Occasionally, the sound of footsteps is heard inside cabins, though the rooms are empty and the boards creak under no discernible weight. Some guests claim to feel brushes against their shoulders or fleeting touches. Fleeting enough to question but undeniable in sensation, a reminder of Bodhi's lingering presence. The surrounding hills and mining shafts add another layer of unease. Some explorers have claimed to hear voices or see figures near old tunnels, appearing to dig or emerge from the shadows before disappearing. The mines themselves, dangerous even in daylight, are said to hold strong residual energy, a combination of the miners' labor, fear, and the tragedies that occurred underground. Entering these areas, even briefly, often leaves visitors with a sense of disorientation and the impression of unseen watchers close at hand. Many paranormal investigators are drawn to Bodhi, hoping to capture evidence of the unexplained. Thermal cameras, EVP recordings, and motion-sensitive equipment have all produced anomalies, blinking lights in empty windows, faint voices on audio playback, and temperature fluctuations with no logical cause. While skeptics attribute such events to environmental factors or the power of suggestion, the sheer number of consistent experiences over decades cannot be dismissed lightly. Bodhi Ghost Town is more than a preserved relic of the gold rush. It is a living monument to the people who lived, worked, and often died there. From spectral miners and phantom figures in windows to doors slamming shut on their own and the faint sounds of a long-gone community. The town is a chilling reminder that some histories refuse to remain buried. Visitors often leave with stories of being watched, feeling icy hands brush past them, or hearing the echoes of life that once filled these streets. A haunting testament to a place where the past remains very much alive. The Fox Theater in Oakland, California, stands as a relic of the golden age of cinema. A grand movie palace whose ornate architecture and gilded interiors evoke the glamour of the early 20th century. Opened in 1928, it was once a hub of entertainment, drawing crowds eager to experience the magic of film, live performances, and orchestral accompaniment. Over the decades, the theater has survived closures, renovations, and periods of neglect. Yet it continues to captivate visitors, not only for its historic beauty, but also for the eerie tales of hauntings that have become an inseparable part of its legacy. Employees and visitors alike report experiences that suggest the theater is far from empty. Stagehands working late shifts often recount hearing footsteps echoing through darkened hallways long after the last guest has departed. These sounds are measured and deliberate, sometimes pacing back and forth across corridors, stopping near doors, and then fading into silence. Attempts to locate the source frequently prove futile, as no one is visible and no doors appear open. The sensation is unsettling, giving the impression that someone or something is still performing the duties of a long-departed worker. Stories of equipment moving on its own are another common phenomenon. Lighting rigs, props, and stage curtains occasionally shift inexplicably. Despite being securely fastened, stagehands have reported spotting mic stands tilted slightly, cables pulled across the floor, or chairs nudged out of place. Some visitors have observed these movements in real time, noting that objects seem to respond to their presence, yet when they approach, nothing is there. These manifestations are often attributed to the spirits of employees who lost their lives during early renovations, their energy lingering in the spaces they once navigated daily. Unseen touches are also frequently reported throughout the Fox Theater. Staff have described sudden brushes against their arms or shoulders while working in empty hallways. Moments of icy contact that seem almost purposeful. These sensations often provoke a mixture of fear and curiosity, as they occur in areas with no apparent airflow or movement. Some employees interpret these touches as warnings or signals from the past. A reminder that the theater's history includes not just grandeur, but also tragedy. The theater's main auditorium, with its soaring ceilings, ornate balconies, and intricate plasterwork, has long been a hotspot for spectral activity. Visitors often describe feeling an intense pressure while sitting in certain areas, as though unseen observers are watching. Others have reported hearing faint murmurs or whispers that seem to drift through the rows of seats, sometimes resembling conversations from a bygone era. The echoes often appear to originate from the balcony or the stage, lending a chilling sense of life lingering in the grand hall. One of the most compelling aspects of the Fox Theater's hauntings is the consistency of reports across generations of staff. New employees frequently hear stories of footsteps in empty corridors, objects moving mysteriously, or strange cold spots, only to experience them firsthand shortly after beginning work. Longtime stagehands often speak of these occurrences with a mix of reverence and fear, describing them as part of the theater's identity and invisible layer of history that refuses to remain silent. The theater's history itself may contribute to its spectral population. During renovations in the early 20th century, several workers tragically lost their lives in accidents involving scaffolding, electrical equipment, and heavy machinery. These deaths, often sudden and violent, are thought to have left an imprint on the building, their energy lingering in the areas where they fell or labored. Paranormal investigators suggest that spaces where intense emotional or physical trauma occurs are particularly likely to harbor residual energy, replaying echoes of life, labor, and death long after the living have gone. Visitors to the Fox Theater have also reported hearing phantom music, faint orchestral notes drifting from the stage or balcony. Sometimes the sound resembles the rehearsals of a bygone orchestra, the gentle strumming of strings, or the distant tapping of piano keys. These auditory phenomena are frequently accompanied by temperature drops and a sensation of being watched, reinforcing the sense that the theater's past continues to echo in the present. Some guests have described glimpsing fleeting figures in period clothing, moving through corridors or along the balcony edges. These apparitions often appear semi-transparent, indistinct yet clearly humanoid, sometimes performing tasks that reflect the theater's operational history, adjusting equipment, sweeping floors, or peering into darkened rooms. The figures frequently vanish when observed directly, leaving only a lingering sense of presence and the faint smell of dust, sweat, or old stage materials. Even areas outside the main auditorium are not immune to ghostly activity. Dressing rooms, storage areas, and backstage corridors have all been reported as locations of strange occurrences. Doors occasionally open or close by themselves, lights flicker without cause, and shadows move against walls in patterns that defy natural explanation. Many who traverse these spaces after hours describe a pervasive heaviness in the air, a weight that suggests both vigilance and unrest from the unseen occupants. Paranormal investigators visiting the Fox Theater have recorded anomalous audio, temperature fluctuations, and photographic oddities consistent with staff and visitor accounts. EVP recordings often capture faint voices, whispered words, or the sound of footsteps in areas where no one is present. Cameras occasionally detect shadows or mist-like figures moving across hallways or the stage, further solidifying the theater's reputation as a site where the living intersect with the lingering presence of the deceased. The Fox Theater is more than an architectural treasure. It is a living museum of history and memory, where the past refuses to remain confined to photographs or stories. From phantom stagehands and ghostly apparitions to unexplained movements of equipment and chilling cold spots, the theater embodies the intersection of beauty, tragedy, and the supernatural. Visitors and staff alike often leave with a heightened awareness of the history that pervades its halls, a reminder that, in this grand movie palace, the echoes of the past continue to perform for an audience that cannot always be seen. The San Francisco Armory, an imposing structure in the heart of the city, stands as a stark reminder of the city's military past. Built in the early 20th century, the armory served as a training ground, weapons storage facility, and military hub during times of conflict. Its massive brick walls, arched windows, and cavernous interior halls reflect both the grandeur and severity of its original purpose. Yet beneath the historical significance lies a darker, more sinister reputation, one that has attracted urban explorers, paranormal investigators, and curious visitors seeking encounters with the unexplained. Reports of ghostly activity at the armory span decades. Those who venture inside after hours often describe an oppressive atmosphere, as though the building itself is alive with memories of the past. Cold drafts move inexplicably through the hallways, cutting through even the warmest of nights. These chilling gusts seem to follow individuals as they explore, brushing against their skin or enveloping them in sudden waves of icy air. Many visitors interpret these sensations as residual energy, lingering traces of the countless soldiers, workers, and civilians who once passed through the armory's doors. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Explorers recount seeing dark silhouettes moving along hallways, standing at the edges of staircases, or peering through arched windows. These figures are often human-shaped, but lack discernible detail, appearing more like dark imprints than living beings. When approached, they vanish, leaving behind only a lingering feeling of being watched. Some witnesses describe an almost sentient awareness in these shadows, a sense that the figures are conscious of the intruder's presence and silently observing. Unexplained sounds further amplify the eerie ambience of the armory. Echoes of footsteps, distant murmurs, and the occasional clang of metal reverberate through the cavernous interior. These noises often seem perfectly timed with a visitor's movement, creating the sensation of an unseen companion or pursuer. Staff and explorers alike report that these sounds sometimes occur in areas entirely devoid of people, making it impossible to attribute them to natural causes. Doors creak open or slam shut on their own, and voices faint, unintelligible, yet unmistakably human seem to emerge from empty rooms. Urban explorers particularly emphasize the sense of being followed. Many recounts walking down long corridors or traversing vast halls only to feel a persistent presence just behind them. Turning around, they see nothing. These experiences are often accompanied by a heightened emotional response, sudden anxiety, dread, or the feeling that a line has been crossed into a domain where the past refuses to rest. The armory's history of violence and conflict is often cited as a source of its paranormal energy. During its operational years, confrontations ranged from intense military training accidents to more serious incidents, including injuries and fatalities. Some rooms, particularly storage areas for weapons or training halls, are believed to retain strong residual energy for moments of tension, fear, or sudden death. Paranormal theorists suggest that spaces marked by trauma or heightened emotion often act as catalysts for supernatural activity, which may explain the consistency of reports from this location. The sheer size of the armory adds to its eerie effect. Vast open halls echo even the slightest sound, creating an environment where every creak, whisper, or footstep is amplified. Narrow stairwells, hidden rooms, and long dark corridors contribute to the disorienting atmosphere, making it easy for visitors to feel lost or watched. Many explorers describe a sensation of time-warping moments, stretching or contracting unnaturally, as though the building itself manipulates perception to maintain its spectral presence. Silhouettes in the armory are particularly active near its upper levels and observation towers. Some visitors report seeing human forms pacing along catwalks or leaning against railings, only to disappear when approached. Others have described fleeting glimpses of figures moving quickly along hallways, so fast that it seems impossible for a human to move in such a manner. These encounters often leave witnesses shaken, questioning the boundaries between the living and the spirits that inhabit the armory. The building's lower levels are no less haunting. Storage areas, maintenance rooms, and empty training halls frequently elicit reports of sounds, cold spots, and fleeting shadows. Investigators have noted inexplicable electronic disturbances, CAMERAS, malfunctioning without reason, and temperature readings fluctuating dramatically in isolated sections. The layering of past activity, combined with the armory's architectural design, seems to create a perfect environment for paranormal phenomena. Paranormal investigators continue to be drawn to the San Francisco Armory, documenting experiences with audio recorders, thermal cameras, and motion-sensitive equipment. AVP sessions often capture low murmurs or commands, and visual recordings sometimes reveal distortions consistent with eyewitness reports. Even skeptics find themselves unsettled by the consistency of reports across decades. From staff, visitors, and urban explorers alike, despite its imposing exterior and rich historical significance, the armory is defined not only by its past, but by the lingering presence of that past. The cold drafts, shadowy figures, and unexplained sounds form a tapestry of supernatural activity, reminding visitors that this is a place where history is alive in a profoundly unsettling way. Those who enter its halls often leave with a mixture of awe and unease, carrying with them the awareness that the spirits of the San Francisco Armory continue to watch, wait, and move unseen. The Petaluma Cemetery, quietly nestled on the outskirts of town, is far more than a resting place for early settlers. It is a site where the veil between the living and the dead seems especially thin. Established in the mid-19th century, the cemetery holds the graves of pioneers, laborers, and families who endured the hardships of early California life. Many of these individuals died under tragic or mysterious circumstances, leaving behind lingering stories of loss, hardship, and unresolved tragedy. Over the years, visitors and paranormal enthusiasts have reported numerous unsettling phenomena, suggesting that the spirits of Petaluma's past continue to roam the grounds. One of the most frequently reported experiences is the flickering of lights near the older sections of the cemetery. Street lamps and lanterns along the winding paths sometimes dim and flare without any discernible electrical cause. Witnesses claim that the effect is strongest near the oldest graves, where the headstones lean with age and the inscriptions are worn from decades of wind and rain. Some interpret these flickers as manifestations of the spirits themselves, trying to make their presence known or communicate with the living. Voices whispering names are another common occurrence. Visitors often recount hearing their own names, or the names of those buried nearby, carried softly on the wind. The voices are usually faint, barely audible over the rustling leaves, but their clarity is unnerving. Some describe hearing conversations or murmurs that stop abruptly when approached, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. These auditory experiences are reported at all hours, though they are particularly pronounced during the late evening or early morning, when the cemetery's quiet and shadows stretch long across the ground. Apparitions are perhaps the most striking phenomenon at Petaluma Cemetery. People have described ghostly figures moving among the headstones, often dressed in clothing that reflects the era in which they lived. Some are seen walking slowly along paths, pausing as though observing visitors, then vanishing into the mist. Others appear near graves that are known to mark particularly tragic deaths, infant graves, those of accident victims, or individuals who perished far from home. Witnesses frequently report a feeling of being watched or followed, even when they turn to find the area empty. The oldest sections of the cemetery hold the densest concentration of these paranormal occurrences. Weathered stone markers, many tilted or cracked, seem to attract the most activity. Explorers and investigators often remark on the heavy atmosphere in these areas, describing a palpable energy that presses against the chest and induces shivers even on warm nights. Footsteps, too, are reported in these sections, soft, deliberate steps that echo over gravel and fallen leaves, yet reveal no source. Visitors have also reported unusual temperature fluctuations, Cold spots appear suddenly along walkways, enveloping a small area as if someone unseen has stepped close by. In some cases, a brief warmth follows, creating a sensation of alternating presence and absence. These shifts are often accompanied by subtle sounds, rustling garments, distant murmurs, or the faint creak of iron gates swinging in a non-existent breeze. The combination of sensory anomalies contributes to an overall impression that the cemetery is alive with unseen forces. Many claim that some graves themselves act as focal points for paranormal activity. Certain headstones seem to attract more sightings or sounds than others. Investigators have noted that these graves often belong to individuals who died tragically or unexpectedly, reinforcing the notion that unresolved energy may linger longer in the wake of sudden death. People standing near these stones sometimes report sudden pressure on the chest, feelings of anxiety, or the sensation of being gently touched by unseen hands. Light anomalies are not confined to artificial sources. On some nights, witnesses have described flickering orbs floating among the graves, moving slowly as if guided by invisible hands. These lights vary in size and intensity, occasionally drifting along paths or hovering near particular headstones before fading into the darkness. While skeptics may attribute these orbs to insects or dust reflecting light, many report that their behavior is too deliberate, too purposeful, to be purely natural. The cemetery is also known for its unusual auditory experiences. Beyond whispered names, some visitors have heard distant sounds resembling weeping, soft laughter, or the clatter of objects falling. These sounds often appear to emerge from areas with no visual access, deep among the older grave markers, or from the shadowed corners where the earth slopes downward. The unpredictability of these occurrences contributes to the cemetery's reputation as one of the most haunted sites in the region. Even during the day, the cemetery can feel charged with presence. Shadows seem longer, corners darker, and the wind carries a weight that is hard to explain. Visitors sometimes report seeing figures out of the corner of their eye, glimpses of movement that disappear when looked at directly. Animals in the area, including birds and dogs, are also said to behave strangely, hesitating near certain graves or reacting as if sensing an unseen watcher. Paranormal investigators are drawn to the Petaluma Cemetery for these reasons, documenting experiences with audio recorders, cameras, and thermal imaging. Many report capturing unexplained anomalies, faint voices on EVP recordings, glowing orbs on video, and temperature readings inconsistent with the surrounding environment. While skeptics may offer natural explanations, the consistency of reports from witnesses across decades cannot be easily dismissed. The Petaluma Cemetery is more than a burial ground. It is a repository of history, tragedy, and memory. From flickering lights and whispered names to apparitions and cold drafts, the cemetery offers a window into the past and a chilling reminder that some souls remain tethered to the world of the living. Visitors leave with stories of encounters that defy logic, carrying with them the sense that, among the headstones, the residents of Petaluma's past continue to watch, move, and whisper across the years. The Empire Mine in Grass Valley, California, stands as one of the oldest and most storied gold mines in the state, a place where ambition, greed, and danger converged during the gold rush era. Its massive headframes, weathered timber structures, and winding shafts tell a tale of human endeavor. Yet beneath the surface lies a darker story, one of tragedy, peril, and lingering spirits. The mine produced millions of dollars worth of gold, but that wealth came at a cost, as countless miners endured accidents, collapses, and deadly working conditions. Today, explorers, historians, and paranormal investigators claim that the spirits of those who perished underground continue to haunt the site, echoing the hardships of a bygone era. Visitors to the Empire Mine often speak of an oppressive atmosphere that settles over the grounds, particularly near the old shaft entrances and abandoned equipment. Cold drafts sweep through the mine's tunnels, even on warm days, unnaturally chilling the air and sending shivers down the spine. Many report the sensation of being watched as they approach the main entrances, a lingering awareness that someone or something is observing from the shadows. This heavy, almost tangible energy is said to be strongest near the areas where mining accidents were most frequent, particularly around the deep shafts that have long since been sealed off or partially collapsed. One of the most common reports involves sounds echoing from the tunnels. Explorers frequently describe hearing hammering or pickaxe strikes in areas where no work is occurring. The metallic echoes seem to come from deep within the earth, carrying the rhythm of labor from generations past. These sounds are often accompanied by faint cries or shouts, like voices calling for help, trapped in the darkness. Visitors recount moments when the noises suddenly stop as they pause, as if the spirits are deliberately interacting with the living, aware of their presence but unwilling or unable to emerge fully. Ghostly figures have also been reported near the mine's entrances and along the old tracks used for or carts. These apparitions often appear as miners in period clothing, their faces obscured by hats or shadow. Some witnesses describe seeing figures climbing ladders or disappearing into dark shafts, moving with a purpose that seems almost natural, yet entirely out of place in the present. A few explorers have stated that these figures seem to be replaying their daily routines, stuck in a perpetual loop of labor, forever bound to the mines where they met their deaths. The mine's abandoned equipment adds to the unsettling atmosphere. Rusted carts, broken timber supports, and old machinery occasionally seem to move or creak without explanation. Some explorers claim to have felt brushes against their arms or shoulders as they navigated the tunnels, sudden touches that vanish the moment they spin around. Others report hearing the sound of chains rattling or pulleys turning, as if unseen hands are continuing the work of the long-dead miners. These subtle interactions lend a sense of immediacy to the haunting, making visitors feel that the spirits are both present and active. The Empire Mines buildings above ground, including offices and storage areas, are not immune to paranormal activity. Lights have been reported flickering on and off without cause, doors swinging open or closed on their own, and footsteps echoing across empty floors. Witnesses often report a sense of being followed through these areas, footsteps keeping pace with them even when no one is visible. Some claim that the energy feels heavier in rooms where miners' records or personal effects were stored, suggesting that the spirits are drawn to the remnants of their past lives. Explorers who venture into the deeper tunnels often describe a disorienting effect on time and perception. The labyrinthine shafts twist and turn unpredictably, and some report the sensation that passages seem longer or darker than physically possible. Shadows appear to shift and extend in unnatural ways, and occasional glimpses of figures vanish as quickly as they appear. These experiences contribute to the eerie impression that the mine itself is alive, a conduit for the energy and memories of those who labored and died within its walls. Many paranormal investigators have attempted to document the hauntings with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal sensors. EVP recordings have captured faint hammering, indistinct murmurs, and cries for help that appear to come from deep within a mine. Thermal cameras sometimes reveal cold spots or shadowy forms moving against the walls, though no living person is present. The consistency of these reports, alongside the long history of accidents and deaths at the site, reinforces the notion that the Empire Mine's tragic past has left a lasting imprint on the physical space. Visitors often feel a mixture of awe and dread while exploring the mine. The sheer scale of the tunnels, the history of labor and loss, and the repeated paranormal encounters create an experience that is both fascinating and unnerving. Many leave with stories of unseen miners, the echoing of tools striking rock, or a fleeting figure disappearing into the darkness, a vivid reminder that the past is never truly gone. Even today, the Empire Mine continues to captivate those who venture near it. Its gold-rich history may have brought wealth to some, but the lingering presence of those who perished underground serves as a haunting counterpoint, a solemn reminder of the human cost of ambition. From hammering sounds and cries for help to ghostly figures emerging from dark shafts, the mine remains a place where the past is alive in the present, echoing through stone, timber, and shadow. Explorers and historians alike often leave the Empire Mine with the sense that the spirits of the miners are still at work, continuing their eternal labor beneath the earth. Those who visit report a heightened awareness of the lives lost, the dangers endured, and the unquiet energy that inhabits every shaft, hallway, and building. The Empire Mine is more than a historical site. It is a testament to the enduring presence of the past, a place where the line between history and haunting blurs, and where the echoes of miners who met untimely deaths continue to resonate for anyone willing to listen. The Angel Island Immigration Station, located on the serene waters of San Francisco Bay, near Tiburon, is a site steeped in both history and sorrow. From 1910 to 1940, the station served as the primary processing center for immigrants, particularly those from Asia, who arrived on American shores seeking opportunity, freedom, or a new life. Yet the experience for many was far from welcoming. Immigrants endured long detentions, grueling interrogations, and harsh conditions as they awaited entry into the United States. Stories of mistreatment, despair, and even death became part of the station's history. Today, visitors and paranormal enthusiasts report that the spirits of those who suffered there have not left, manifesting as fleeting shadows, cold spots, and whispers that echo across the docks and old barracks. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Angel Island is the appearance of ghostly figures on the docks. Visitors often describe seeing silhouettes dressed in early 20th century attire, moving silently along the waterfront as if preparing to board or disembark from a ship. These figures are frequently spotted during the evening or early morning, when the mist rises off the bay and the air is heavy with fog. Witnesses say that the apparitions sometimes linger near abandoned gangways or the remains of pier structures, vanishing when approached, leaving only the sound of water lapping against pilings. The sense of presence is often overwhelming, a reminder of the thousands who pass through these docks under duress. Whispers in multiple languages are another hallmark of the station's haunted reputation. Visitors report hearing conversations in Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, and other languages, often carried on the wind through the empty barracks or across the docks. The voices are sometimes fragmented snippets of dialogue, a name called out, or a soft murmur of distress, but their authenticity is striking. Some explorers claim that the whispers mimic the rhythms of interrogations, echoing the tense exchanges that took place as officials questioned hopeful immigrants. Others suggest that the voices are pleas for comfort or recognition, remnants of lives marked by struggle and uncertainty. Cold spots and sudden temperature shifts are frequently reported by those who walk the grounds of Angel Island. Even on warm days, certain areas near the old dormitories, guardhouses, and docks seem to carry a sudden chill. The effect is most pronounced near the barracks where detainees were housed or along the gangways used to transport new arrivals. Many describe the sensation as more than just cold. It feels as though the temperature itself carries the weight of the station's sorrow, pressing against the chest, causing goosebumps, and evoking a tangible awareness of past suffering. Visitors have also recounted fleeting glimpses of figures inside the abandoned buildings. Shadows move along hallways, doorways, and stairwells, sometimes pausing as if observing the living. People report seeing silhouettes in traditional clothing from their home countries, their movements deliberate and human, yet intangible. Others have seen a figure glance toward them from a window, only to disappear moments later. These visual anomalies are often accompanied by a heavy sense of melancholy, a reminder that the station was not just a place of processing, but a place where dreams were delayed, hopes were tested, and lives were irrevocably changed. Footsteps and the sound of shuffling movement are frequently heard inside the old dormitories and administrative buildings. Visitors claim to hear pacing, the dragging of luggage, or the soft clatter of shoes on wooden floors long after the station has closed for the day. These sounds often follow people as they walk down hallways, intensifying in proximity before abruptly ceasing. Some report that the echoes seem to mimic the rhythm of long-departed detainees moving in their daily routines. carrying the memory of countless individuals whose presence still lingers in the very structure of the buildings. Many paranormal investigators have documented these phenomena, using audio and video equipment to capture evidence. EVP recordings frequently pick up whispers, murmurs, and faint calls that were not audible at the time of recording. Thermal cameras sometimes detect sudden cold spots or shadowy forms moving through corridors. While skeptics may argue that environmental factors or structural settling could account for some experiences, the consistency of witness reports over decades suggests a lingering presence tied to the site's history. The emotional weight of Angel Island is palpable, even for those who do not claim to experience paranormal activity. Visitors often describe an overwhelming sense of sorrow, empathy, or reflection while walking the docks or exploring the barracks. The combination of the site's history, its isolation on the bay, and the reports of ghostly encounters creates an atmosphere unlike any other historical location. People leave with an awareness of the struggles faced by the immigrants, a sense that the past is still watching, and a lingering chill that follows them off the island. The station's docks, in particular, are a magnet for reported activity. Observers have noted figures boarding phantom ships, their forms momentarily solid before dissolving into the fog. Some say they see families waiting in line, carrying luggage or belongings, only to vanish when attention is paid. Others describe hearing faint sobs, a mother calling to a child, or a group murmuring prayers in their native tongue. These experiences underscore the profound emotional and spiritual resonance of the location, linking the living world with the memories and energies of those who passed through under hardship. The Angel Island Immigration Station is more than a historic site. It is a vessel for memory, trauma, and lingering spirit. From ghostly figures on the docks to whispers in multiple languages, from sudden cold spots to fleeting apparitions in the old buildings, the island carries the weight of its history. Visitors leave with stories of unexplained phenomena, a haunting reminder of the lives that intersected with the station and the echoes that remain long after the gates were closed. Those who explore the grounds come away with the sense that the spirits of Angel Island's past continue to watch, move, and whisper, bound to the island by the struggles, fears, and hopes that defined their lives. The old Santa Clara Jail, a weathered brick structure dating back to the early 20th century, stands as a chilling reminder of California's past justice system. Though long decommissioned, the building continues to draw attention not for its historical architecture, but for the lingering spirits said to haunt its dark corridors. For decades, locals and paranormal investigators have reported strange occurrences: doors slamming without cause, chains rattling in empty cells, and ghostly faces appearing behind barred windows. The jail's grim history, combined with countless stories of suffering, makes it one of Northern California's most notorious haunted sites. Originally built to house criminals and those awaiting trial, the old Santa Clara Jail quickly developed a reputation for harsh conditions. Inmates were confined in cramped cells, often with minimal ventilation and inadequate light. Disease and violence were common, and records indicate that many prisoners died within its walls, either from illness, despair, or altercations with fellow inmates. Over the decades, numerous incidents have left their mark, and it is these tragedies that many believe have fueled the building's spectral activity. Visitors to the jail often report a palpable sense of unease upon entering. Even during daytime tours, the atmosphere feels heavy, as if the walls themselves bear the weight of decades of fear and suffering. Many claim to feel sudden cold spots near the older cell blocks, icy drafts that seem to emanate from the cells themselves. The sensation is unnerving, often accompanied by the inexplicable feeling of being watched. Some describe hairs standing on end, goosebumps rising along their arms, and an almost instinctive desire to retreat, as though unseen eyes are tracking their every movement. Doors slamming on their own is one of the most common phenomena reported. Guests and investigators alike recount moments when cell doors swing open or shut with a force that seems disproportionate to any natural cause. Sometimes, the noise reverberates throughout the building, startling those nearby and leaving a lingering sense of tension. Some paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the slamming doors are the echoes of frustrated or angry spirits bound to the very cells where they once suffered confinement. Chains rattling in empty corridors are another eerie hallmark of the old Santa Clara jail. Visitors have described hearing metallic clinks and dragging sounds that seem to move through the hallways, despite no one being present. Some claim that the noise comes from the lock mechanisms of old cells, yet upon inspection, all equipment is secure and undisturbed. The sound of chains evokes images of prisoners being restrained, and many who experience it report feeling a sudden drop in temperature or a pressure in the chest, as if the emotional residue of the past is pressing down upon them. Ghostly faces appearing in cell windows add a particularly disturbing dimension to the hauntings. Witnesses often report glimpsing pale faces pressed against the bars, eyes staring out with a mix of despair and accusation. These apparitions are fleeting, vanishing the moment one tries to get a closer look. Some believe these faces belong to inmates who died in isolation, their spirits forever bound to the cells where they were confined. The sudden appearance of these faces often leaves visitors shaken, as if confronting the raw emotional pain of those who never left. Paranormal investigators have spent countless hours exploring the jail, attempting to document its spectral inhabitants. Audio recordings frequently capture moans, murmurs, or whispers that cannot be attributed to wind or structural noise. Some investigators have caught shadowy figures on camera, moving through hallways or peering from cell doors. Thermal imaging occasionally shows unexplained cold spots or apparitions, adding to the mounting evidence that the jail is more than just a relic of the past. Even those who do not believe in ghosts find the environment unnerving. The combination of historical tragedy, confined spaces, and unpredictable occurrences creates an atmosphere that is both oppressive and unnerving. Many visitors report an overwhelming sense of melancholy, a heavy weight that presses upon the spirit, as if the pain of past inmates has seeped into the very walls. The building seems to retain the energy of its former occupants, replaying the emotions and turmoil of decades gone by. Some staff and volunteers who work at the site claim to experience regular paranormal activity. Lights flicker without cause, objects shift slightly when no one is around, and unexplained footsteps echo in empty corridors. Many describe sudden feelings of anxiety or dread in specific cells, often where records indicate a particularly tragic death occurred. These experiences are corroborated by historical accounts, suggesting that the intensity of the hauntings is linked to the severity of past suffering. The old Santa Clara jail remains a magnet for those drawn to the paranormal. Historians interested in California's law enforcement past, and thrill-seekers eager to explore its haunted halls. Its legacy of suffering, combined with consistent reports of ghostly activity, creates an environment that is both fascinating and unsettling. Visitors often leave with a mix of awe and fear, haunted not only by the stories they have heard, but by the lingering presence of those who lived and died within its walls. For those willing to enter its dark corridors, the jail offers a glimpse into a time when punishment was harsh, confinement was cruel, and many lives ended prematurely. The slamming doors, rattling chains, and ghostly faces serve as reminders that some energies, once imprinted, never truly fade. The old Santa Clara jail is a stark testament to human suffering, a place where history and haunting converge, and where the echoes of the past continue to resonate through the empty halls, awaiting anyone bold enough to witness them firsthand. The Sutro Baths, perched dramatically on the cliffs of San Francisco, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, were once a grand complex of saltwater pools, slides, and exhibition halls, built in 1896 by Adolph Sutro. They were a marvel of their time, drawing thousands of visitors eager to swim, socialize, and escape the city heat. But after decades of decline and a devastating fire in 1966, the baths were reduced to haunting ruins. Their skeletal remains, now a magnet for adventurers, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts. Over the years, countless reports of ghostly activity have emerged, claiming that the spirits of former patrons and workers linger, unable or unwilling to leave the site. Visitors to the Sutro baths often describe an unsettling feeling as soon as they step onto the broken tiles. Even in daylight, the ruins seem imbued with a sense of melancholy, the salty sea breeze carrying whispers of the past. Many report hearing faint footsteps echoing across the shattered floors, the sound startlingly distinct despite the emptiness of the site. The echoes often move with a rhythm and weight that suggests the presence of multiple individuals, pacing the halls, climbing the stairs, or walking along corridors long abandoned. Shadowy figures are a common phenomenon at the baths, often glimpsed near the remaining walls or close to the edge of the cliffs. Witnesses describe seeing human-like shapes emerging from the mist, their forms partially obscured by fog rolling off the ocean. Sometimes these figures appear to linger, watching intruders cautiously before vanishing without a trace. A few visitors have reported multiple apparitions simultaneously, moving in coordinated patterns reminiscent of the crowds that once filled the baths during their heyday. These spectral patrons are often dressed in period bathing attire, lending a surreal, almost cinematic quality to the experiences. Cold gusts of wind within the ruins are another hallmark of the Sutro baths' paranormal activity. While the cliffs themselves are subject to ocean breezes, visitors consistently note abrupt temperature drops in specific areas that cannot be explained by natural causes. The chills are often accompanied by tingling sensations on the skin, or a sudden sense of heaviness, as if an unseen presence is pressing down upon those who enter. These localized cold spots are most frequently reported near the former pool areas, where visitors' imaginations and the site's history converge to create an intensely eerie atmosphere. Whispers and indistinct voices have been reported by those exploring the ruins. Often unintelligible, these sounds seem to drift across the empty halls, occasionally punctuated by laughter or muffled calls. Some say the voices echo conversations that might have taken place over a century ago, while others believe they are remnants of distress from the site's last years, when the baths fell into neglect and despair. The auditory phenomena are frequently accompanied by visual oddities, shadows flitting across walls, brief reflections in puddles of water, or figures disappearing into the fog as soon as they are observed directly. The ocean itself seems to enhance the haunting. The waves crashing against the rocky shore below the baths create a constant, rhythmic backdrop that amplifies the perception of movement and sound within the ruins. Witnesses report seeing ghostly figures at the water's edge, sometimes diving or swimming as if the baths were still operational. These figures often vanish before they can be approached, leaving only footprints or ripples as evidence of their passage. Some explorers suggest that the spirits are tied to the very experience of the baths. The joy, leisure, and social activity that once thrived there, enabled to abandon the place that defined so much of their existence. Paranormal investigators have documented a variety of unusual occurrences at the Sutro baths using cameras, audio recorders, and thermal imaging. EVPs often capture whispers, laughter, and the sounds of footsteps where no one is present. Thermal cameras sometimes reveal cold spots or fleeting human shapes moving across the ruins, vanishing into walls or fog. Even skeptics admit that the combination of decayed architecture, ocean mist, and atmospheric conditions creates an environment ripe for eerie experiences. Yet the consistency of reports over decades suggests something more than coincidence. The ruins themselves contribute to the haunting experience. Crumbling staircases, fractured pools, and skeletal walls provide an almost cinematic backdrop for ghostly phenomena. The site's open-air design allows fog and mist to move freely, sometimes obscuring visitors' vision and enhancing the illusion of figures appearing and disappearing. Long corridors and collapsed halls create acoustics that amplify distant sounds, making echoes seem alive. Many who explore the baths report a profound sense of history, as if the ruins themselves remember every splash, laugh, and footstep that once filled the complex. Even daytime visitors often report strange experiences. Shadows may move in their peripheral vision. Sounds of splashing water are heard in dry pools, and the constant fog creates moments of disorientation. At night, the atmosphere becomes markedly more intense, with the ocean's roar and darkness amplifying every whisper, every rustle, and every flicker of movement. Those brave enough to explore after sunset frequently describe an overwhelming sense of being watched, footsteps keeping pace with them, or fleeting figures vanishing just beyond their reach. The Sutro baths remain a site of fascination, not only for their architectural and historical significance, but also for their reputation as one of San Francisco's most haunted locations. The combination of tragic decline, crowded past, and lingering spirits creates a unique atmosphere that leaves a lasting impression on visitors. From ghostly figures in fog to cold gusts of wind and footsteps echoing on broken tiles, the baths serve as a bridge between the joyful memories of the past and the sorrowful echoes of those who cannot let go. For those willing to wander the ruins, the experience is unforgettable. Every step on the fractured tiles is a connection to a century of human activity, every chill a reminder of lives long gone, and every fleeting shadow a glimpse into a world where the laughter, conversation, and leisure of the Sutro baths continue to linger, eternally present for anyone willing to witness them. The Petaluma Adobe, located in the heart of Petaluma, California, stands as a reminder of the region's rich history and turbulent past. Built during the 1830s as part of the Mexican land grant era, this adobe was once a hub of activity, a residence and operational center for early settlers navigating the hardships of frontier life. While the building itself is impressive, with thick earthen walls and period architecture, it is the stories of lingering spirits that have made it infamous among locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Over the years, the adobe has become synonymous with tales of ghostly apparitions, cold drafts, and sounds that defy explanation. Visitors to the Petaluma Adobe often remark upon the eerie stillness that pervades the property. Even on bright, sunny days, there is a sense of weight in the air, a lingering energy that seems to carry the memories of those who lived, worked, and sometimes suffered within its walls. The most common reports involve sudden drops in temperature, often near the main halls and living quarters. People have felt icy chills sweep across their shoulders or along their spines, accompanied by the sense of being watched. These cold spots seem to congregate near areas of historical significance, particularly where difficult events are believed to have taken place, suggesting a connection between emotional energy and paranormal activity. Perhaps the most unsettling experiences involve ghostly figures appearing unexpectedly. Witnesses describe fleeting shadows of men and women in period attire, moving across the adobe's rooms or lingering near doorways. Some visitors have reported seeing a woman in a long, flowing dress, silently gliding along a hallway before vanishing into a wall. Others have seen figures standing at windows, staring outward as though peering into the future or reliving moments long past. These apparitions are often accompanied by a profound sense of sorrow, and many who witness them describe a feeling of deep empathy, as if the spirits are trapped between this world and the next, replaying fragments of their lives for anyone who will notice. Sounds are another frequent hallmark of the Petaluma Adobe's hauntings. Doors creak open on their own, floors seem to groan under invisible footsteps, and the faint clatter of objects moving is sometimes heard in empty rooms. Visitors often report hearing whispers, too soft to decipher, yet undeniably human in cadence and tone. These auditory phenomena are often strongest in the evenings, when the natural quiet of the adobe amplifies every sound. Some claim the whispers resemble conversations of settlers, discussing daily chores, disputes, or long-forgotten family matters, while others insist the voices are urgent warnings or mournful cries, echoing unresolved trauma from centuries ago. The adobe's history provides fertile ground for these stories. During the Mexican and early American periods, life on the frontier was harsh. Disputes, illness, and tragedy were common, and records suggest that several deaths occurred on or near the adobe's grounds. Some historians believe that spirits of those who met untimely ends may linger, unable to fully transition, bound to the site by emotional resonance. Paranormal researchers have long been drawn to the Petaluma adobe, documenting the phenomena with audio and visual equipment. Many have captured cold spots, EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, and fleeting shadows on camera, supporting the anecdotal evidence provided by locals and visitors over generations. Nearby historical buildings in Petaluma add layers to the region's haunted reputation. Structures such as the old Petaluma Hotel, historic churches, and early government buildings also carry stories of ghostly encounters. Patrons of these sites often report sudden chills, the sensation of unseen hands, and disembodied voices that seem tied to the struggles of early settlers. Many of these buildings were centers of daily life and hardship, where people faced everything from disease and accident to personal conflict, leaving behind a tapestry of energy that permeates the area. Some visitors describe a sense of movement throughout the adobe that cannot be explained by natural causes. Doors swing open without contact, and objects occasionally shift slightly as though nudged by unseen hands. Mirrors sometimes reflect shapes or figures that vanish when attention is paid, while shadows flicker in corners where no light source exists. Explorers have also noted that time seems to behave oddly within the adobe. Minutes may feel like hours, and footsteps may echo long after the person has moved on. This temporal distortion adds to the unnerving quality of the site, enhancing its reputation as a location where the past refuses to remain buried. The garden and surrounding grounds of the Petaluma adobe are similarly associated with paranormal activity. Visitors walking the pathways have reported sudden gusts of cold wind, even on warm days, and fleeting figures glimpsed between trees and fences. Some claim to see children playing silently, dressed in period clothing, vanishing when approached. Others have heard the sounds of horses and wagons, ghostly echoes of the adobe's operational past, despite no such traffic in modern times. These experiences suggest that the spirits are not confined to the interior of the building, but roam freely across the property, connecting the present with layers of history long past. Despite or perhaps because of these unsettling reports, the Petaluma adobe remains a popular destination for those interested in both history and the paranormal. Visitors leave with a deep sense of connection to the past, a feeling that the adobe is alive with memories and energy that refuse to fade. While skeptics may attribute much of the activity to imagination, structural quirks, or environmental conditions, the consistency and variety of experiences reported over decades suggest that something truly extraordinary persists on the grounds of this historic adobe. The Petaluma adobe is more than a preserved historical site. It is a vessel for memory, sorrow, and lingering energy. From ghostly figures gliding through halls to cold gusts of wind, whispered voices, and shadows that defy explanation, the adobe offers a window into the lives of those who came before. Exploring the adobe is not just a journey through architecture, but a confrontation with the past itself, where the joys, struggles, and tragedies of early Californian life continue to echo, waiting to be witnessed by those who dare to enter. The Redwood National Forests in Humboldt County are more than just a sanctuary of towering trees and mist-shrouded landscapes. They are a place where the veil between the living and the dead is said to be thin. Spanning hundreds of thousands of acres, the forests are home to some of the tallest trees on Earth. Their massive trunks stretching skyward and their canopies creating perpetual twilight beneath. For generations, these forests have been steeped in legend, folklore, and chilling tales of encounters with spirits, both indigenous and lost, who wander the dense undergrowth. Hikers, campers, and explorers tell stories of strange phenomena that defy explanation, blending natural beauty with a persistent sense of unease. Many of the tales originate from the histories of the indigenous tribes who have lived among these forests for centuries. The Yurok, Talawa, and other coastal tribes considered the redwoods sacred, often holding ceremonies in the deep woods. According to legend, spirits of ancestors remain among the trees, guardians of the land, who are simultaneously protective and vengeful toward those who disrespect the forest. Modern visitors sometimes feel these energies, describing a sudden heaviness in the air. An almost tangible presence watching their every movement. The sensation is often strongest when hikers stray from established paths, wandering deeper into the dense groves where sunlight barely penetrates. Many hikers report seeing inexplicable lights flickering between the trunks of the redwoods. These lights often appear at dusk or dawn, small glimmers that move in ways inconsistent with fireflies or artificial sources. Some witnesses describe them as blue or white orbs, floating slowly between the trees, vanishing when approached. Others see more complex shapes, vague silhouettes of human figures, sometimes appearing to move along old trails or standing silently among the roots. The lights are often accompanied by a low hum or whispering sound, as though the forest itself is speaking in a language just beyond comprehension. The whispers themselves are among the most unsettling phenomena reported in the redwoods. Hikers describe hearing voices, sometimes calling their names, other times engaged in conversations in unfamiliar tongues, sometimes chanting in low, rhythmic tones. These sounds seem to come from all directions at once, echoing among the massive trunks, yet no source can ever be found. The voices are sometimes friendly or neutral, but often convey an urgent warning, a sense of dread, or a silent accusation. Many who hear these whispers report a sudden instinct to turn back, an overwhelming sense that continuing deeper into the forest could be dangerous. Disorientation is another common experience. Dense fog and towering trees obscure landmarks, making hikers feel as though they are walking in circles or moving deeper into the forest, despite retracing their steps. Some visitors claim to lose track of time, hours passing in what feels like minutes. Those who stray off established paths are most susceptible, and tales abound of individuals vanishing for hours or even days only to re-emerge without memory of where they have been. In extreme cases, hikers have reported encounters with ghostly travelers, lost souls trapped in the forest, who vanish when approached, leaving no footprints or trace behind. Shadowy figures are frequently reported among the redwoods. These shapes are often humanoid, appearing just beyond the corner of one's vision. Sometimes they seem to mimic human movement, standing in clearings or pacing along ridges. They vanish if directly observed, leaving behind only the eerie feeling of being watched. Campers who have spent the night in the forest recount seeing figures near their tents, sometimes moving silently among the massive roots, other times simply standing at the edge of the tree line, observing them. Those who encounter these figures often speak of a heavy, oppressive energy, a mix of fear and awe, as though the forest itself is alive and aware. Legends also tell of ancient trails now overgrown, paths once used by indigenous peoples or early settlers, along which travelers vanished without a trace. Some hikers claim to feel invisible hands or brushes of air along these forgotten routes, as if the spirits of those lost travelers are still moving, guiding or warning others who dare to enter. Local folklore insists that disrespecting the forest, cutting branches, or disturbing sacred areas can provoke these entities, causing them to manifest more aggressively. Stories abound of hikers who wandered into forbidden groves, only to experience intense vertigo, sudden chills, or auditory hallucinations, forcing them to retreat. Animals in the redwoods are also said to behave strangely near these haunted areas. Deer and smaller wildlife often freeze, staring silently at points where no human observer sees anything. Birds may fall silent, and the rustle of leaves may seem unnatural, as though the forest is holding its breath. Visitors report these subtle signals often precede more intense paranormal experiences. A figure appearing among the trees, strange lights flickering, or the feeling of an unseen presence approaching. Despite the dangers and unsettling experiences, many are drawn to the redwood national forests for their beauty and the thrill of encountering something beyond the ordinary. Some paranormal investigators use cameras, audio recorders, and thermal imaging to document strange activity, capturing fleeting shadows, temperature anomalies, and occasional EVP recordings of whispers and distant cries. Whether these phenomena are natural, psychological, or truly supernatural, The stories continue to accumulate, adding layers of legend to the already mysterious forests. For those venturing into the redwoods, caution is advised. The trails, fog, and towering trees create an environment where disorientation is easy, and the weight of history feels tangible. Every step on the moss-covered ground connects the present with centuries of human experience, joy, hardship, and tragedy. And as visitors wander the deep groves, some may feel the unseen gaze of spirits, the whispers of the past, and the eerie glow of lights that cannot be explained, leaving them with memories that linger long after they have left the forest. The Redwood National Forests of Humboldt County are a place where history, nature, and the supernatural intertwine, from ghostly lights and shadowy figures to disembodied whispers and sudden chills. The forests serve as both a natural wonder and a site of mysterious, lingering energy. Those who explore them are stepping not only into towering groves of redwood, but into a landscape alive with stories, spirits, and legends that continue to captivate and unsettle anyone brave enough to wander among the ancient trees. The Petaluma adobe, one of the most significant landmarks in Northern California, is a sprawling adobe structure built in the early 19th century during the Mexican land grant period. Originally serving as the center of Rancho Petaluma, it was home to settlers, ranch hands, and families who worked the land and lived within its thick sun-baked walls. While the adobe stands today as a historical site, preserving the architecture and stories of early Californian life, it is perhaps more famous among locals and paranormal enthusiasts for the restless spirits said to linger there. Over the years, the adobe has become a focal point for ghost stories, eerie experiences, and unexplained phenomena that continue to intrigue and terrify visitors. Many who explore the adobe report an overwhelming sense of history pressing down on them, a feeling that the walls themselves retain memories of the people who once lived and died there. Cold drafts appear suddenly in the middle of summer, brushing along hallways or sweeping through rooms with no apparent source. Visitors often feel these gusts on their necks or across their shoulders, and many describe a deep unease, as if invisible eyes are tracking their every movement. Some believe these chills are tied to the spirits of those who met untimely deaths or endured hardships during the adobe's early years, unable to leave the land they once called home. Visual apparitions are frequently reported within the adobe. Witnesses describe fleeting shadows, humanoid figures gliding silently along the halls, and glimpses of people in period clothing disappearing when approached. One recurring story involves a woman in a long 1800s-style dress, seen wandering through the main rooms or standing at doorways, staring toward windows or empty courtyards. She vanishes whenever someone tries to follow her, leaving only the sensation that she was observing them, watching for some unseen purpose. Some guests have even reported seeing children running through the halls, laughing and playing in rooms now empty of furniture, only to vanish when they attempt to approach. The sounds within the adobe further reinforce its haunted reputation. Doors are said to creak open by themselves, and footsteps echo across empty halls, often following visitors as they move from room to room. Whispered voices are a common occurrence, sometimes calling out names or speaking in Old Spanish, reflecting the heritage of the original settlers. Visitors often find these whispers impossible to decipher but unmistakably human, as though the voices are fragments of conversations that took place centuries ago. Furniture occasionally shifts slightly, and objects may be found in places they were not previously, adding to the sense that unseen presences are actively moving through the space. The grounds surrounding the adobe contribute to the supernatural atmosphere. The courtyards, gardens, and pathways are often described as feeling heavy with unseen energy. Visitors report seeing shadowy figures between the trees, hearing the distant clatter of horseshoes, or sensing presences moving just beyond their field of vision. Some claim to have glimpsed spectral riders on horseback along the perimeter, figures moving silently among the shrubs and outbuildings, vanishing when approached. The natural fog that rolls in from nearby Petaluma Creek often amplifies these phenomena, casting the adobe and its surroundings in a ghostly light that enhances the sense of unreality. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Petaluma adobe often report capturing EVP, electronic voice phenomena, unexplained cold spots, and shadow figures on video. Many claim that the energy at the site feels both intelligent and reactive, as though the spirits are aware of being observed. Some investigators describe sudden feelings of pressure, headaches, or dizziness while inside certain rooms, sensations that vanish immediately upon leaving. These experiences reinforce the idea that the adobe's haunting is not merely the result of imagination, but of a lingering, tangible presence tied to the building and its history. Beyond the adobe itself, other historic buildings in Petaluma share similar haunted reputations. The city, rich in 19th-century architecture and early Californian history, is home to several former hotels, churches, and public buildings that have been the site of reported ghostly encounters. Patrons of these locations often report unexplained footsteps, voices calling from empty rooms, and shadowy figures glimpsed through windows or in hallways. Some speculate that the convergence of human activity, tragedy, and age in these historic structures leaves residual energy that manifests as paranormal activity. Visitors to the Petaluma adobe often remark on the sense of timelessness that pervades the property. Rooms, corridors, and courtyards seem to exist outside of ordinary time, where past and present intersect. Some describe feeling as though they are walking alongside long-dead settlers, observing a life that continues to play out in echoes and glimpses. This perception is particularly strong at dusk, when shadows lengthen and the adobe's walls seem to shift subtly in the fading light, making the space feel simultaneously familiar and alien. Despite its eerie reputation, the Petaluma adobe remains a popular site for history enthusiasts, tourists, and paranormal investigators. While some are drawn purely by curiosity, others are captivated by the idea of experiencing a tangible connection to the past. The combination of preserved architecture, tragic history, and persistent legends creates an environment uniquely suited to ghostly encounters, where the line between reality and the spectral seems to blur. The Petaluma adobe is more than a historical building. It is a repository of memory, suffering, and lingering energy. From ghostly figures gliding along hallways and courtyards to cold drafts, whispered voices, and fleeting shadows, the adobe offers a haunting glimpse into the lives of early settlers. It is a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where the echoes of human experience continue to manifest for those willing to witness them. Visiting the Petaluma adobe is not just a journey through history. It is an encounter with the spirits who remain eternally entwined with the adobe's walls, grounds, and legacy. The Redwood National Forests in Humboldt County are more than just towering trees and misty trails. They are landscapes steeped in mystery, history, and whispered legends. These forests, home to some of the tallest trees on Earth, have long captivated hikers, naturalists, and adventurers with their immense beauty. But beneath the grandeur of the redwoods lies a darker layer, a world of folklore and chilling tales that speak of spirits wandering the dense woods, of lost travelers who never returned, and of phenomena that defy explanation. Those who venture beyond the well-trodden paths often find themselves confronted with experiences that are both awe-inspiring and unnerving. Local legend holds that the spirits of indigenous tribes, including the Yurok, Talawa, and other coastal peoples, remain connected to the land. These spirits are said to guard sacred groves, protect the animals, and watch over the land in ways that are invisible yet deeply felt. Hikers report sudden chills that sweep across their bodies even in the heat of summer, as if unseen eyes are tracking every step. Some describe an inexplicable heaviness, a pressure in the chest that grows the deeper they walk into the forest. Those who ignore the traditional trails often experience the most intense phenomena, suggesting that these spirits are both protective and vigilant against intrusions into their territory. One of the most common reports involves strange lights appearing between the massive trunks. These lights are often described as small, flickering orbs that hover silently above the forest floor, moving in ways that defy natural explanation. Some hikers insist they have seen the orbs form vague humanoid shapes, disappearing the moment someone approaches. Others describe them as blue, white, or amber, floating along the paths or peeking out from behind the massive tree trunks. Many claim that the lights are accompanied by faint, almost musical hums or whispers, creating an atmosphere that is both mesmerizing and deeply unsettling. Whispers are another hallmark of the Redwood National Forest's supernatural reputation. Hikers often describe hearing voices in languages they cannot identify, sometimes murmuring words that resemble indigenous dialects, sometimes speaking in tones that are urgent or pleading. Occasionally, the whispers seem to call the listener by name, even when no one else is around. These auditory experiences are particularly strong at dawn and dusk, when the interplay of shadow and mist gives the forest an almost otherworldly quality. Some visitors report being paralyzed by fear, unable to move as the whispers grow louder and more insistent, only to find the sounds vanish as suddenly as they appeared. Shadowy figures are frequently encountered in the redwoods. Hikers glimpse them from the corner of their eyes, tall and humanoid, moving silently among the trees or standing motionless in clearings. These figures are often described as fleeting, vanishing when directly observed, leaving behind only a sense of being watched. Some travelers claim that the shadows mimic human gestures, pausing as they pause, tilting their heads as if studying them. Campers who have spent nights in the forest often awaken to find figures standing just beyond the perimeter of their tents, silently observing until morning light scatters them into the mist. Disorientation is a recurring theme for those who venture into the heart of the forest. Thick fog, dense undergrowth, and the repetitive patterns of the redwoods make it easy to lose one's sense of direction. Visitors report feeling as though they are walking in circles or moving forward when they have retraced their steps. In some cases, people report losing track of time entirely, with minutes stretching into hours, and vice versa. Those who stray from established paths are particularly susceptible, with stories of hikers vanishing for hours or even entire days before reappearing, unable to recall their journey. The natural environment of the redwoods seems to amplify these supernatural experiences. Animals behave strangely near areas considered haunted. Deer freeze and stare silently at spaces where no one is present. Birds fall silent, and the wind itself seems to shift unnaturally, carrying whispers or footsteps that cannot be located. Some hikers report glimpsing phantom animals, wolves, elk, or birds that appear partially transparent or vanish abruptly, leaving only a lingering sense of being observed. Legends also speak of lost travelers who never returned, wandering ancient trails now overgrown by moss and ferns. Hikers recount the sensation of invisible hands brushing their arms or sudden gusts of wind that push them back towards safer paths. Others have reported fleeting glimpses of figures carrying lanterns or leading groups along forgotten routes, only to vanish when approached. These stories reinforce the belief that the redwoods are alive, not just with nature, but with memories and spirits, keeping a watchful eye over anyone who ventures too far. Paranormal investigators who explore the forests report EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, temperature anomalies, and shadow figures on video, all supporting the anecdotal experiences of hikers and locals. Many describe feeling an energy that is both intelligent and reactive, suggesting that the spirits are aware of human presence. Those who attempt to provoke or challenge these entities often report sudden headaches, dizziness, or an overwhelming sense of fear, dissipating only after leaving the forest entirely. Despite the warnings, the Redwood National Forests continue to attract visitors seeking beauty, adventure, and sometimes encounters with the supernatural. For those willing to walk its trails, the forests offer not only a glimpse of some of the tallest living organisms on Earth, but also an immersive experience in a world where history, memory, and the unexplained converge. From ghostly lights and whispering voices to shadowy figures and sudden chills, the redwoods remain a place where the past is never truly gone, and the spirits of the forest continue to watch, silently waiting for the next visitor to tread their ancient paths. The old City Hall in Sacramento stands as a testament to the city's rich history. Its stately architecture, a reminder of the political and civic life that once pulsed through its halls. Built in the late 19th century, the building was home to the city's administrative offices and council chambers, where decisions that shaped Sacramento's growth were made. Today, while portions of the structure are still used for offices, much of it sits quiet, a relic of a bygone era. Yet, beneath the polished woodwork and marble floors lies a layer of the unexplained. A collection of ghost stories that have persisted for decades. Many who have worked late nights or visited the old City Hall after hours claim to have experienced phenomena that defy reason, leaving them questioning what is real and what lingers from the past. The most commonly reported encounters involve the council chambers, where city leaders once gathered to debate and decide the future of Sacramento. Staff members and security personnel frequently speak of doors that open and close on their own, chairs that slide or rock as if occupied, and papers rustling across tables despite the absence of a breeze. Some have described the faint echo of voices, murmurs of debate, laughter, or stern admonishments carrying through empty rooms. These sounds are often most pronounced late at night, when the building is otherwise silent, giving the impression that meetings are still in session, conducted by invisible council members who have refused to leave. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the old City Hall's haunting. Witnesses report seeing vague outlines of people moving along corridors, glimpsed from the corner of the eye, but gone when directly observed. Some appear to wear period attire consistent with the late 1800s and early 1900s. Long coats, waistcoats, and formal dresses, as though they are trapped in the moment of civic duty. The figures are often seen pacing the council chambers, standing near the podium, or moving silently along the hallways, giving the eerie sense that the building itself has retained the memories of its occupants. Staff members working late have also reported sudden drops in temperature in certain areas, particularly near the council chambers and older office wings. The cold often comes in sharp, localized blasts, so strong that it raises goosebumps or makes breath visible even in warm weather. Alongside these chills, many have felt an oppressive sensation, a weight pressing down as though the history of the decisions made within these walls still clings to the air. Some employees have described a tingling sensation on their skin, a feeling of unseen hands brushing past them as they walk the corridors, heightening the sense of unease. Unexplained sounds are frequent and varied, from the echo of footsteps following a single person down empty hallways to the faint clattering of keys on desks that have long been abandoned. The old City Hall seems alive with residual activity. Staff report hearing the distinct creak of the council chamber doors, the shuffle of papers, and the low murmur of discussions that fade when approached. Occasionally, these noises escalate to louder phenomena. Chairs tipping over, doors slamming shut, or objects falling from shelves, startling anyone present. Paranormal investigators who have visited note these incidents often occur at predictable times, suggesting some kind of lingering schedule or ritual, as if the council's ghostly members are still adhering to the routines of their living counterparts. Several tales also involve personal encounters with the apparitions. Some employees describe turning corners to find a figure standing silently, staring ahead, only to find the hallway empty moments later. Others have recounted glimpsing someone sitting at a desk in an office that has been vacant for decades, their figure vanishing when approached. One particularly chilling account involves a security guard who claimed to see the full council seated at the chamber table, papers spread before them and heads bowed in discussion, fading into thin air as he stepped forward to confront them. These stories have become part of the building's lore, whispered among employees and visitors alike. Paranormal researchers visiting the old City Hall have attempted to document the activity with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal imaging. Many report capturing unexplained cold spots, orbs of light in hallways, and EVP recordings of indistinct voices and phrases. Some investigators claim to have detected patterns in the activity, suggesting that the spirits are aware of their presence and may be attempting to communicate. Despite technological efforts, many experiences remain personal and subjective. leaving witnesses with an enduring sense of the building's living history. The old city hall's haunting is often described as more nostalgic than malevolent. While some experiences are frightening, most involve the simple persistence of history, the echoes of long-past debates, the lingering presence of civic duty, and the weight of responsibility that once filled the halls. Visitors frequently report a mix of awe and fear, as if stepping into the building is stepping into a temporal overlap where the past is never fully gone. The surrounding offices and hallways of the old city hall also carry their own subtle phenomena. Lights flicker inexplicably, computers reboot without cause, and doors swing open on their own. Staff report objects shifting slightly, papers being moved, or files appearing in places they were not left. Many attribute these occurrences to the building settling or to drafts, yet the consistency of reports over decades suggests something more persistent. The combination of physical anomalies, visual sightings, and auditory experiences makes the Old City Hall one of Sacramento's most enigmatic historical sites. For those who visit or work in the building, the Old City Hall is a place where history feels tangible and alive. The ghostly council members, unexplained sounds, cold drafts, and shadowy figures serve as a reminder that the past is never truly gone, and that the walls of this historic building hold more than architectural significance. They hold memory, energy, and the echoes of a city's legacy. Walking its halls, one cannot help but feel the weight of decades past, and the possibility that, long after the lights have dimmed and the doors have locked, the Old City Hall's ghostly occupants continue to meet, debate, and watch over Sacramento in silence. Mare Island Naval Shipyard in Vallejo, California, holds a rich and storied past as the first United States Navy base established on the West Coast. For over a century, the shipyard was a bustling center of maritime activity, producing warships, training sailors, and supporting military operations from World War I through the Cold War. But since its closure, the sprawling docks, warehouses, and abandoned buildings have become shrouded in legend, attracting those fascinated by history, decay, and the paranormal. Locals and explorers alike claim that Mare Island is far from empty, that the spirits of sailors, officers, and workers linger among the rusting hulls and crumbling concrete, replaying echoes of a life that once pulsed through this industrial labyrinth. Visitors first notice a profound stillness at Mare Island, a quiet that feels unnatural given the site's vast expanse. Those who have ventured into the abandoned docks and warehouses often describe sudden drops in temperature, as if the air itself carries the memory of long-departed occupants. Fog frequently rolls in, drifting through the dry dock and along the creaking piers in ways that seem almost alive, obscuring the path ahead and heightening the feeling of isolation. It is in this eerie atmosphere that many of the shipyard's ghostly encounters take place. Footsteps are one of the most commonly reported phenomena. Explorers often hear the echo of boots on steel grates or wooden planks, following them through the empty corridors of warehouses and along the dockyards. The sounds appear to come from all directions, sometimes from above in mezzanine levels, sometimes from beneath in long-forgotten tunnels. Yet, when investigators attempt to locate the source, the echoes vanish, leaving only silence and the faint creaking of abandoned structures. Some have reported hearing groups of sailors marching in formation, their synchronized steps resonating unnaturally long after no one is in sight. Apparitions are another frequent sight. Shadowy figures, often in period Navy uniforms, have been seen moving along the piers or inside empty warehouses. Witnesses describe sailors at work on ghostly vessels, hammering or performing maintenance, only to disappear when approached. Some apparitions appear to be aware of the living, glancing toward observers before fading into mist. One recurring figure is that of a lone sailor standing near the edge of the dock, staring silently across the water as if waiting for a ship that will never return. The abandoned shipyards, old barracks, and officer quarters are particularly prone to paranormal activity. Doors are said to open and close on their own, lights flicker, and cold drafts sweep through hallways with no discernible source. Visitors report hearing faint conversations, the low murmur of sailors' voices, or the distant clang of metal tools being used. Some even claim to see shadows moving across the walls or figures sitting on the edges of beds, vanishing when directly observed. The effect is cumulative. Many who spend time inside the old buildings leave with a lingering sense of unease, as if the very walls hold the memories of decades of human labor and sorrow. Fog and mist at Mare Island are frequently accompanied by strange sightings. Many explorers recount seeing figures materialize within the fog along the old dry decks, their forms only partially visible, wavering as though caught between worlds. The fog often obscures the surrounding landscape, giving the illusion that ships float in an endless void. Some claim to hear distant calls for help carried across the water, voices that are indistinct but unmistakably human, evoking the sense of sailors lost to accidents, illness, or the sea. Maritime equipment and vessels themselves are often implicated in ghostly activity. Abandoned cranes creak and sway without wind, ladders shift, and rusted chains clatter as if moved by unseen hands. Some investigators report electronic disturbances around old ship control panels and dockside generators, hearing static-filled communications that resemble sailor chatter from decades past. Cameras and recording equipment sometimes fail inexplicably, reinforcing the belief that Mare Island is a nexus for paranormal energy. Paranormal researchers visiting Mare Island often describe the energy as both intelligent and reactive. Attempts to communicate with spirits via EVP, electronic voice phenomena, or other methods frequently yield responses that suggest awareness. Voices recorded on audio sometimes answer questions, call out names, or repeat commands, as if the old routines of the shipyard are still being observed. Investigators also report feelings of being watched, pressure on their chests, or sudden disorientation while navigating the maze of warehouses, piers, and overgrown paths. Local stories often emphasize the protective nature of the spirits. Some say that the sailors' apparitions are tied to the shipyard's history, watching over the land and the vessels that remain. Reports exist of people being guided away from dangerous areas, feeling an invisible presence steer them back toward safety when exploring unstable docks or crumbling buildings. Others speak of more sinister encounters, where the sudden presence of a figure, a shadow, or a cold gust seems intended to startle or intimidate those who venture too far without respect for the site's past. The Mare Island Naval Shipyard is a place where history and the supernatural intersect. From ghostly sailors marching along empty piers to shadows moving through abandoned buildings. From unexplained footsteps and voices to the spectral glow of fog along the dry decks, the shipyard offers a chilling glimpse into lives that once thrived and now linger as echoes. Visitors often leave with a heightened awareness of the site's layered history, an understanding that Mare Island is more than rusted metal and crumbling concrete. It is a landscape haunted by memory, duty, and the restless spirits of those who built, maintained, and served within its grounds. For those who wander Mare Island after hours, the shipyard transforms from a historic site into a place where past and present overlap, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and where the ghosts of sailors continue their endless watch along the docks, ready to appear for anyone willing or unfortunate enough to witness them. The old Sonoma mission, nestled in the heart of Sonoma, California, stands as a silent witness to centuries of history. Founded during the era of Spanish colonization, the mission has long been a center of religious devotion, cultural exchange, and human struggle. Its adobe walls, weathered by time and sun, hold stories of faith and conflict, of settlers and Native Americans whose lives intertwined in ways both harmonious and tragic. But beyond its historical significance, the mission is shrouded in an aura of the unexplained. For decades, clergy, staff, and visitors alike have reported paranormal activity that cannot be easily dismissed. Cold spots, shadowy figures, and strange sounds seem to permeate the building, creating an atmosphere where the past feels as present as the air one breathes. Those who enter the mission often describe an immediate sense of unease. The air inside the old chapel is heavy, and sudden temperature drops are a frequent occurrence. Visitors report walking through corridors or near the altar and feeling the temperature plummet without warning. leaving visible breath or a chill that seeps into the bones. Some clergy members have spoken of these cold spots appearing in the same locations repeatedly, particularly near old burial grounds adjacent to the mission, or in rooms that were once used for meetings and ceremonies. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the mission's paranormal activity. Witnesses have described fleeting images of people dressed in period clothing, long skirts, cloaks, and simple tunics, moving silently through hallways, disappearing behind walls, or vanishing as one attempts to approach them. These figures are often glimpsed near the old classrooms, the refectory, and the cloisters, and many seem unaware of the living, continuing routines that echo centuries-old habits. Occasionally, these apparitions appear more distinct. The outline of a man carrying tools, a woman tending to the garden, or children walking in pairs along the stone pathways. In addition to visual phenomena, the mission is notorious for its auditory anomalies. Footsteps echo along empty hallways, often in a pattern that suggests multiple people walking in formation. Doors creak open and shut without any physical cause, and faint whispers sometimes, in Spanish, sometimes in local Native American dialects, seem to rise from the walls themselves. Visitors have recounted hearing prayers murmured softly in areas that are otherwise deserted, while others claim to hear the laughter or crying of children in courtyards long abandoned. These sounds are especially pronounced during late evenings or early mornings when the mission is quiet, and the effect can be disorienting for those unfamiliar with the location. Certain rooms within the mission are particularly active. The old sacristy, where sacred items were stored and rituals prepared, has been the site of multiple reports. People entering the room describe sudden feelings of dread, an overwhelming sense of being watched, and objects moving slightly as if nudged by invisible hands. Some witnesses have claimed that the light inside the room seems to dim or flicker spontaneously, casting eerie shadows that play tricks on the eyes. In the refectory, cold gusts sweep across tables, and the sounds of chairs scraping along floors have been heard, even when no one is present. The mission's gardens and adjacent grounds are also sites of haunting. Visitors strolling along pathways report glimpses of figures in period dress among the plants or near old fountains. Some claim to feel a presence at their side, only to turn and see no one. The quiet of the early morning is often broken by the sound of horses or wagon wheels, though the mission has not housed livestock in decades. Others describe strange lights hovering near trees or along the edges of fields, vanishing when approached. Paranormal investigators have documented some of these experiences using cameras, thermal imaging, and audio recorders. Many report capturing orbs of light, unexplained shadows, and cold spots that register on equipment despite the absence of any physical explanation. EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Recordings sometimes reveal faint voices responding to questions, calling out names, or repeating prayers. Some investigators interpret these phenomena as the lingering spirits of early settlers and Native Americans, tied to the mission by the intensity of human emotion, labor, and suffering that took place over centuries. Despite the eerie activity, the old Sonoma mission is not universally considered malevolent. Many describe the hauntings as remnants of lives lived in devotion, struggle, and community, rather than intentionally harmful presences. There is a sense that these spirits are bound to the mission, unable or unwilling to leave, replaying the routines and interactions that defined their time in the settlement. Visitors often report a mixture of fear, awe, and reverence, sensing both the spiritual and historical weight of the place. The mission's history contributes to its haunted reputation. Conflicts between Spanish settlers and local native populations, the hardships of missionary life, and deaths due to disease and hardship created an environment ripe for lingering spirits. Gravesites nearby and within the mission compound add to the sense that the living and the dead are closely intertwined in this place. Those who respect the history and tread carefully often report less intense experiences, while those who wander recklessly through the grounds are more likely to encounter startling phenomena. For anyone entering the old Sonoma mission, The experience is immersive. The adobe walls, wooden beams, and stone pathways carry echoes of centuries of life, death, and devotion. Cold drafts sweep through the hallways, shadows appear in peripheral vision, and whispers rise from the very foundations. It is a place where history is tangible, and the past is not merely remembered, it is felt. The spirits of settlers, missionaries, and Native Americans appear to linger, reminding all who enter that the mission's legacy extends beyond what can be seen, reaching into the realms of the unexplained. Walking the halls or exploring the gardens, one cannot help but feel the weight of time and the presence of those who came before. The old Sonoma mission stands as a living monument to history, faith, and memory, but it is also a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, and where the restless spirits of the past continue to wander, observed only by those willing to see beyond the surface. Northern California is a land of beauty, history, and hidden shadows. The 25 locations we explored today are reminders that the past never truly leaves us. Spirits linger, legends persist, and the line between the living and the dead is often closer than we realize. If you dare, explore these haunted places yourself, but tread carefully. Respect the history, beware the shadows, and remember that sometimes curiosity can lead you into realms best left undisturbed. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the eerie and unexplained. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more haunted adventures, as we continue to uncover the dark corners of the world, one chilling story at a time.